Ting. All right, James, take us in.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Andrew's Amazing Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, James Santana, and this week we are joined by both my children of the atom, my X-Men, Hunter Vale Lyrup and Justin Allen.
Bub.
Woo!
Ooh, woo.
So, guys,
Part two, baby. Part two.
this is our part two of
Part
our
two.
breakdown. Oh, God. It's going to be a long night. This is our breakdown, our second part of our breakdown of the Krakoan Age, bringing us from Destiny of X all the way through the Fall/Rise of X miniseries that just ended, and a little tidbit that just came out this week I will talk about at the end before we wrap up, which is the Life of Wolverine. But yeah, we are bringing back. And so if you guys missed part one, go back to listen to part one. I know it's like a 3-hour episode, but it's definitely worth it for you to go back. Go back and listen to that because it's definitely needed. But again, like I said in the first episode, if you did not read Krakoa and you don't know what's going on, don't worry. We are covering all about it so you can get ready for From the Ashes, which starts next week. And that's Lola.
That's my dog, baby.
But yeah, guys, you can check out, go back and listen to episode one. Use this episode as a quick refresher to jump into Krakoa, into From the Ashes. And we are brought to you by Andrew's Amazing Comics, downstate in New York. Now let's just let the show off with some slides. Let's go,
With some
Hunter.
slides. Yeah, we're continuing in from our last episode / live stream. Well, not really live stream. Big giant.
Oh, Hunter froze.
I was about to be like, oh
If I am
no.
gonna be frozen, let's try to get like a good one, like gotta be like
I
hot
know.
or something instead of just being
No.
like.
Yeah,
Hopefully, it'll get me in a good angle this time, maybe, or I'll just stare at it so then it freezes and you can still look at me. But we'll see. But we're gonna start back where we left off at Destiny of X. Recently, we just got out of what was it? Wolverine, Death and Lives of Wolverine, that leads us into the next age of there is Destiny of X. Following the end of dual miniseries, X Lives and Deaths of Wolverine, third Krakoan Age phase. Following the departure of Hickman, Destiny of X includes crossovers Axe Judgment and Sins of Sinister.
Let's go.
We're starting up here with Immortal X-Men volumes 1 through 3, basically. 13, I think, cuts in halfway into volume 3, and the rest is finished off later. But these are the 3 volumes that are covered in this one. Kieran Gillen joins the party almost officially here and then continues onwards with Lucas Wernick coming back to do some art. Quiet Council books spinning out of Inferno. Sins of Sinister roadmap is in place. We got some Sinister. And he's a little sexy too. Lots of Sinister in this era.
I love it. I could not get more.
Oh my word.
I love it. I can't. It can't be stopped. It's funny. In fact, I have the Immortal X-Men Volume 1, that Volume 1 picture, a cover. That entire thing is the Last Supper, and I have it hanging in my. Yeah, I have it hanging in my
That was one of the ones they sold as the was one of the posters, or at least gave to comic book shops as like check this fucking shit out.
Yeah, it's the promo for it's part of like I forgot who did them all.
I think it's Mark Brooks.
Yeah, it's supposed to be Brooks. Yeah, each one he did one for each age, and that was one of them. It's the Last Supper done in X-Men style.
Yeah,
Hey, you know what? Not gonna lie,
Magneto and the Gene, and then there's some blood over here. I guess it's the wine, but still, there's a lot of stuff going on with this cover.
And not gonna lie, like, if there was one person I did not trust throughout the entire Krakoan Age, it was Sinister. I was like, this man has a long history of just being a manipulative douche.
Nope. Nope.
I was like,
it's just hate.
I was just like, there is no way that that he's not involved in something.
From the moment they were like, let's bring villains to Krakoa at the end of Hoxpox, we knew something was going on, especially with having Sinister on the Quiet Council. We knew this was up. But for guys, if you don't know what this is, Immortal X-Men is the series directly spinning out of Inferno, like Hunter said. This does show more of the machinations and how the Quiet Council actually operates, and kind of like the political intrigue of Krakoa. It's like CNN without all the old people. But that's what it is. That's what this is. Most of the series. It's true though. All the old people are off the council. Magneto's in Mars. This is also the series where Colossus joins the
Well, is Magneto and Mars in this
Yeah,
one? I
yeah.
thought during
yes.
Inferno they chuck him in the hole with Xavier for a while.
No, that's Sinister.
Okay,
It's part of this line, but yes.
it gets
Um,
there.
yeah. This is kind of setting up everything. It's the Kate coming back to join the Quiet Council, getting rid of Shinobi. It is like X's big ramp up of his like really weird pious take on hope. It is again, it is CNN. It's all the political stuff that Krakoa was like made for. It's really cool. Um, Also in this series is the setup for Sins of Sinister, which I guess we'll be talking about Sins of Sinister
It
eventually.
does come up. I think it's at the end.
Okay.
Yeah, so it'll
Yeah,
be a bit.
it's awesome. It is the working arm of Krakoa. I think this along with
This
X-Men
book
being
should have been way earlier. I
no,
think.
actually, you know
Yeah.
what?
I think there
Really?
should have been maybe not this book specifically, but a book primarily focused around the council. Hickman did a good job at trying to keep it relevant, like with the Cyclops stories, but
Yeah.
there was still not enough Quiet Council, at
Wow.
least content during the beginning of the first two arcs. I know they made appearances with the Hellfire Gala and Trial of Magneto and stuff like that, but I'm talking like full on intimate details and what goes on during the Quiet Council. Like this book should have been, or a book like this should have been day one.
I definitely agree because I feel like the one interesting aspect of like whenever you create some kind of new city or some kind of new country, like government is key. Like, how does the government operate? What kind of discussions do go on behind the scenes?
Yeah, and they
And
throw in
everyone,
these big names in this. Like it's Sinister, Magneto, Xavier, Nightcrawler, Mystique, Emma Frost. Like it's these huge Apocalypse for a while. It's these huge characters at the beginning, and they're just like, and all these guys are just going to be in the background of all the books, which does work. But I feel like those strong characters, obviously Apocalypse was an Excalibur, but those strong characters should have been forefront in a series.
absolutely, because they definitely have very forceful personalities. So
Mhm.
it's like trying to get them all in a room to agree on
Yeah,
something
it would have been cool to see more headbutt.
delicious. It
Yeah.
like to see just like direct conflict within the or the Quiet Council would have been amazing to see.
No, I get it. I think it does work as a companion piece to X-Men now when you're looking at it post Inferno, as you have Immortal and you have regular X-Men as like the superhero book, and this is the kind of Immortal became where all the events kind of spun out of. What X-Men was the interact with the superhero world after Karen Gillan had after Jerry Duggan had taken over the book um in the last era. Um but yeah, this is the roadmap to every event going forward. Every book, every X-Men event comes back to Immortal. Um yeah, go ahead, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say, which makes it good, and it reads that way. But I feel like I think what Hunter was trying to really get at is like it would have been nice to have this without it being a roadmap, just
Mm.
being like what it is,
Yeah, I mean, Gillen
and
does a
like
pretty good job at spacing it out. I think Gillen's a very good storyteller. I'm a big fan of his work, their work. So I'm excited to see what they do in Marvel afterwards. Because besides Eternals, Gillen has only done very few amounts of Marvel like ongoings.
hmm.
Give Gillen Captain America. Give Gillen Thor. Like, what are we doing?
I don't know.
Why are we positioning Gillen to be in like backups or the
I don't know.
Eternals?
'Cause this is an X-Men podcast, and we have no time for you to talk about extra Marvel
Fair
books
enough.
outside of
Fair
AXE.
enough. Let's get to the next slide. Let's get in here for Marauders. This is the second bit of Marauder, the second launch of Marauders. This time, Steve Orlando jumps in with Eleonora Carlini with the second volume. Only Kitty and Bishop return. I think there might be a few more characters sprinkled out, but those are the two big characters that get to stay around from the first volume. Instead of water pirates, they go to space and become space pirates. Guys, you know what time it is? It's Dakin. Dakin's in this book.
Yeah.
I mean, he's right here. There he is. this is where he gets the name Fang as well. Steve Orlando
Yes.
takes the old Wolverine name for Dakin and throws it at him to give him a proper name instead of being Dakin or Akihiko or whatever his real name is. So they're just hit him with Fang. But now he's something else. So, you know.
Yeah, it's okay. So,
What do you guys
Marauders.
think about Star Wars Marauders?
I hated it.
X-Men Star Wars.
Oh, I actually loved it.
I hated this book.
I thought it was pretty interesting. I thought the premise of like sort of a proto mutantdom was pretty cool. Well, that's eventually where they get to. But I thought like seeing them all in space and seeing them, I so rarely get excited whenever like the Shi'ar is involved because I'm just like I grow weary of the bird people after a while. But I thought it was pretty cool seeing all these characters kind of like interact with them, and it was I thought it was interesting, to be honest.
I hated this book, and I like Steve Orlando. I'm like,
I think
get
it's
it.
just because it's such a huge change from the original Marauders that I feel like it just comes like this is a kind of what Sword should have been in a way, where it's like, why isn't Sword doing this? Why are they sending Kate up into space?
You know what? You're right. I wish you either had tied to X-Men Red or to Sword a little bit more, because it is Star Wars. They were trying to make it Star Wars. I hated it.
And then Steve Orlando's guy, Somnus is in here too.
Somnus is there, yes.
Yeah, they did.
I really like Somnus too. I thought like his whole dream power was incredibly cool, and I like when you can introduce like a unique power when you span the entirety of the Marvel universe and you have like telepath, swords guy, strong guy, telepath. Like it was pretty cool twist.
Marvel's better at ideas now. They're now more so the house of ideas than they were back in the day. Half the characters are all Superman ripoffs. You know what I mean?
Oh my God,
strong and that cannot get killed by bullets.
It's like superhuman strength, durability. That's just like baseline.
It's all you need, really.
Oh yeah. But no, like I didn't like it. I didn't like Cassandra being in the book because we knew she was gonna be the bad guy.
What? Well, obviously, but I think it was kind of nice having her play like a small anti-hero role where she was kind of just like okay, she's your foil to your classic superhero. Like she's a deranged psychopath, but right now her plans align with yours. So, it's kind of nice having somebody who is that powerful on the team.
No, I get it's not even like a power thing. I just don't there's nothing about this, and then this is not me, and it's not saying it's bad. Again, I everything's subjective. It's comics, but there is a problem I have with this book for whatever reason. It just didn't click with me.
It didn't click for a lot of readers. I do hear mixed things about this one. I'm glad that you like it a lot, Justin.
I really did. I thought the premise was pretty interesting because it still goes with the theme of like, we're trying to rescue mutants that are in a place that, they are unwelcome or, so on and so forth. And then to have it be like this grand reveal, because like, I feel like the timeline for mutants always keeps expanding as more and more people get into it.
Yeah.
And I feel like this just made it super interesting to me. Like I was actually could not wait for Marauders to come out issue after issue.
It's so boring, and they went back in time and made their own like history of mutant kind, which doesn't make sense at all. Like
they didn't make their own history; it existed. Literally, it existed. It was the whole thing because the fucking Shi'ar, the bird people of secrecy. Let's keep the Emkron crystal. Let's do all this shady ass shit. Of course, we're going to keep one of the biggest secrets.
That was a person. Like not Arako. It's Arako. Arako is a person that was like became the island, that became the two. I like that part of it. The rest of it, like they went back in time and now they exist in our time. It's just I'm like timeline shenanigans and like just try to be Star Wars. Just be Star Wars. If you wanted to be Star Wars, just be Star Wars.
But that was the whole thing. It was like, yes, was the setting in space? Of course. But I feel like that's the only parallel to Star Wars you can really make here. There was no like empire, there was no like grand galactic thing. It wasn't like, you know.
Well, I would say ragtag team of scruffy nobodies and then creepy, crinkly villain, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I
other
feel
than
like,
that, yeah,
and the
not
Rebels.
as many I just
yeah,
hear that
except
people just say, "Oh, it's Star Wars."
well, and that's what, like, to me, I feel like that's a gross underestimation of like Star Wars in general.
I know it
But
is.
like, to be honest, if that's the summation that you got from it, then you need to go back and read it again.
I do have to read it,
It's
actually. I haven't read this one.
I don't. He hasn't read
It's
it.
it's good.
It's.
I like Orlando. I'm a big fan of the
I
Midnighter
like him
run that
too,
Orlando
and
did.
that's
So
the problem I have with this.
I
Like
think you
feel
were expecting
yeah.
typical Orlando, and I think I like the fact that this isn't typical Orlando.
yeah, like I don't. Besides Justice League of America, I don't think Steve Orlando has done a lot of team books. So I don't
Yeah,
really have a lot of reference going into this. So maybe for you, James, maybe the team dynamic just didn't work as well. I know he did Commanders in Crisis, but that's a totally different book.
yeah. That's very different style of storytelling. Why did I get a notification? Sorry about
And I
that.
think just as a closer for me, I feel like one of the things that I usually end up having a problem with, like I said in the last episode, like when you have armor on a team, she always just feels out of place. Like she never
Yeah.
really feels a part of the team. At no given point did I ever feel like anybody on this team was really out of place. Like they
And
all played a role on this team.
I'll give you that. That's the one thing about this Marauders run, where the first one I felt like Storm was out of place on that
Yeah,
team.
Pyro was just
absolutely.
there to be there for sure.
Well,
Yeah.
Pyro was fine. Pyro was fine. Storm was felt out because she's so powerful. Like, why is she on?
Oh
This
yeah,
smaller
yeah. You meant
team?
like I mean,
She's been
Iceman.
doing it
They had
herself.
2 Omega level mutants on the
Yeah.
first iteration of the Marauders.
Right.
2.
This one, it does feel like an actual like team. They are like a pirate squad. I get it.
Yeah.
I just, I don't
Plus,
know.
they put Quanon in here because Quanon bounces around in a
Yes,
bunch
she
of books for a
does.
while. This
They
is right
made
after
stuff for her.
Hellions. Quanon's just like,
Yes.
I'm in space now.
Yes.
They were like, "We need you here.
I'm
We don't
surprised
trust
that
this
Quanon
bitch."
never got voted onto the X-Men, with given how popular they got thrown into all these series. Same with Dakin. But I guess because X-23 was on the team, you don't need 2 Wolverines. So fair. But
Yeah.
you know, these 2 characters specifically are in like so many books. Bishop gets his own little spin-off in this era too. I believe it's this era,
Yes.
War College. So we'll talk
Yeah,
about
that's
that
later.
soon. But like, you know, these guys get a lot of play, you know, with Kitty being in the Quiet Council and then him kind of being in the Quiet Council.
He's a
kind of.
captain. He's a war captain.
Yeah,
He got
given
upgraded
given
because
whatever extra ranks they give out.
because Scott stepped down from being captain in the
Mhm.
beginning for the Duggan run of X-Men. So they needed someone else. Or Bishop.
Well, they technically stepped down during X of Swords because they're
Yes.
supposed to not interfere or some shit because it's
Yeah.
like unsanctimonious, blah 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 blah
That's
blah.
a captain
That's why
thing.
they stepped down to go save their kid, and they officially stepped down afterwards. But
Mhm.
let's get on to the next a bit. You got X Force volumes 5 through 7. Percy and Gil keep X Force on track, this time with Omega Red and Deadpool's official entrance, official into Krakoa. Not a lot to say. It's consistently good, and we'll keep trucking. Lots of space in this era. Sword was a bit early, I guess. Wonder where Al Ewing is, and that's a tease for the next
The
slide.
next book. Oh yeah, I
The next
figured.
slide. but
But-
yeah, X Force just keeps on being X Force, you know. But this
Yes.
time Deadpool's here. Really, that's the big
Yeah.
change.
So
Pretty much.
Like Talon's here, you know. Obviously, you know, Mega Red's a bad guy, but Deadpool's like the big, like crazy, like why the fuck?
he's the add-on. This is actually during the era where we start seeing the gap between Beast and Sage. You get to see where like Beast is keeping Sage drugged and drunk, so she doesn't remember what he's doing.
Yeah, because he's got some
Um,
clone nonsense going on.
yes.
this is like right before Volume 7 is like
Yes.
when they get into the crazy. The Beast goes like sicko mode, crazy.
Yeah. But yes, X-Force in this era is more of the same. These are them going to space, them expanding the team a little bit more. Colossus spends dual duties on Quiet Council and on X-Force as kind
Yeah.
of a
He's an immortal X-Men.
yes, he's a spy for oh my goodness. Malachi still. No. I forgot he's a spy for.
He's a spy for Malachi right now, I believe. I believe in the next volume 8 is when it's the final story.
No.
That
He's a
Look at the
spy for
last one.
Sinister. He's a spy for Sinister.
Oh yeah, he's a plant for Sinister, but that
Yes.
doesn't
Oh
like
yeah, yeah,
it doesn't
yeah.
really they don't really talk about that until Sins of Sinister, which we'll get to.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, all this is just more of the same for X Force. I can't complain. Percy does a really great job at this. Um, this becomes the teams become so tight at this point. It makes a lot of sense that they don't change the lineup pretty much from
Yeah,
volume four forward.
Deadpool pops in here. Deadpool and Omega Red are the only changes that they make.
And even then, Omega Red was kind of pseudo on the team
Yeah,
earlier on
and
as
then
kind of like, oh, we captured
X-23 is
him.
here for one volume.
Yeah.
It's in between X-23's time on the X-Men and then in Exterminators.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They are again like this is continuation of Omega. They added on Deadpool's because they added that we'll talk about it later when they get to
Yeah, the
Deadpool.
Deadpool series is in here.
Yeah. But yeah, that's why this is it's nothing crazy. It's just good X Force. I think Percy is a phenomenal writer, and the X Force Wolverine, sister book styling, it's fantastic. I think the kind of lens he puts X Force through in the earlier ones being more like CIA and then expanding more to back to this classic styling of it being a Black Ops team is awesome. It works very well. I think, especially after Inferno, it makes it more sense for it to be a Black Ops team existing and operating within Krakoa and outside of Krakoa, doing the we are fighting against threats near and far. um I like all that aspect. I do like the drama that kind of is within this book, and as just as much as X-Men is a soap opera, I believe X Force, this version of X Force, reminds me a lot of Remender's run of X Force, where it's like, yeah, they're a
Yes.
team, but there's a lot of drama here. Just because they're all kill squad doesn't mean there's nothing else going on. And I like this a lot. Oh, and this I think this during this era, this is when we Quentin dies, right? When he when Old Man Quentin.
Yeah. Oh, he's at least not in the X-Force books. I think he
Yeah,
pops up in the
I think
Hellfire
he's dead.
Gala.
I think he's dead at this point,
Mm-hmm.
or dead right afterwards. I'm not. It's
Yeah,
all
I
kind
think
of
that's why they
blurring.
get Deadpool in here. I think it's in volume 5. I think it's been a while for X Force. This book
Yeah,
is
because I mean,
still going
X
technically.
I
Force
know.
is
Yeah.
X Force is the one book that does not get renumbered. Wolverine and X Force are the only two books that do not get renumbered throughout the Krakoan age.
Yeah,
They
which is
start at
nuts.
one and they just keep going.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's because they maintain like a pretty solid team and pretty solid storytelling. I mean, there honestly is no need for it, and I agree. I think I liked the CIA premise from the beginning of the Krakoan age.
mhm.
But I do like the transition back into more of a strike force,
I always
and
like X Force doing the dirty work. It's always a good
yeah, because
storytelling piece.
it really is. Because like you know what, you kind of they're necessary.
Well, yeah,
They're
because you
like
think of the X-Men as heroes and you think of Wolverine as a hero, but Wolverine 90% of the time leads these X-Force teams when it's not Cable. So it's like, yeah, it's a cool lens to see, you know, what would be considered some of the world's greatest heroes do the dirty work, like in the Remender run where they got to kill a child. You know what I mean? Like
well,
X-Men
yeah.
are heroes, but there's a lot of morally gray ones in here.
Well, and especially because you have to think about it. This what I like about X Forces is that it reminds me that like they're still a species that are still fighting for survival.
Mhm.
So like sometimes you really need like the morally gray characters to do the things that like your regular X-Men can't do. And I feel like juxtaposed to the Avengers where it would be like obscene to see them have like a whole kill squad
Yeah,
because
they
they're just
tried to do that.
heroes.
Sidney Howard wrote a book called Strike Force, and it was pretty good for the most part, but the team was just unfortunately a bunch of nobodies, even though the team was perfect for what they were looking for. It was like Blade, Winter Soldier, Black Widow, Spider Woman. Like it was a good kill squad style team. But I just think that because none of those characters are heavy hitters, that Strike Force didn't last that long. But I'm glad X Force always manages to keep on trucking.
Oh yeah.
So,
This
James,
is
any thoughts
also
on X Force before we
yeah, of course.
bound?
This is also the era. Yeah, Quentin dies at the beginning of Volume 5, comes back at Volume 7 for this
All right, there
one.
we go. There we go.
This is also the one where you get to see Beast, where they pretty much kick Beast out of kick him out of X Force. Is
Mhm.
this during this run? You also find out who is the Peacock guy. Because I couldn't remember the last episode. Um, he's just the man with the peacock tattoo. Um, That's all he is. He's just
Good
known
for
as the
him.
man with the peacock, and it's called the Jin Engineer. That was his father. That's where I kind of remember the name, and I was like, it's something stupid and sciencey. Yeah, it's Jin Engineer. So yeah, it's the wrap up of the Xeno story. It's the AXC tie-in.
Oh
It
yeah, X all over
is
this.
which we'll talk about X, I guess.
It's in
'Cause
there.
we have to. Yeah, I know.
It's in there.
So we have to.
It's okay. It's a quick
Um,
one.
it is, yeah, it's the finishing of the Xeno story, and the start of Colossus taking over the team is going to be in the next set. So
Yeah.
it's like Ghost Calendars is the final one where it's like they see the future where it's like old man kid old man kid Omega, and the future where Beast is Nimrod
Yeah.
in that future. And yes, um Colossus is still controlled by Malachi. So yeah,
Yeah. Still a baddie.
yes.
There we go.
Let's go, baby.
X-Men Red. There he is, Al
Yes.
Ewing and Caselli with Juan Cabal officially joining in on the Krakoan lineup. He bounces around for a while. Magneto and Storm be kissing and shit. Magneto can't keep a consistent costume and then dies. Nova is here? Question mark.
Well, yes,
Sometimes.
Nova is there.
Well, it's because
So-
Al Ewing just finished up Guardians of the Galaxy, and he was like,
Well,
Nova?
okay. So this all what X-Men Red is fantastic.
X-Men
Oh my
Red
god,
is
it
a
is
sleeper hit. But like,
my
look,
favorite Krakoan
he's
book, like series, bar
Magneto
none.
was white in the first bit. Now he's got the purple costume. He's got the black costume in half of his appearances too. It's just like, make up
It's
your
fine.
mind, buddy.
But
They actually,
yeah.
in the
He's an-
Resurrection of Magneto, they do like a whole piece like why he wears each costume. It's kind of cool, but like,
Yes.
come on.
But this is kind of that lead up into that, which is really
Yeah.
nice too.
Yes. So X-Men Red is the sequel to Sword. It is what is happening on Arakko now that there are no kings on Arakko, as says Storm, the sole regent on Mars. And what happens to all those people that we brought over from the Hellfire Gala during the Hellfire Gala, and what have we been doing with them living on this planet? So it's a mix of politics because it's become the capital of the Soul Empire, and the other half is kind of like Storm and Magneto creating the Brotherhood.
And being
And
badasses.
yeah, it's like,
Yeah, and they start
and yes,
dating.
Magneto, yes, I in my head are Magneto and Storm are dating.
Oh my god, yeah. She legit. I mean, we'll get there, obviously,
Yes.
but like, you can't tell me that somebody who decides to be like, you know what? I'm gonna go res Magneto,
Yeah,
and goes
like,
through a whole adventure to do so, and they're not. No, you can't tell
yeah,
me
I
they're
know,
not dating.
I know. It's good. Like, so this also contains the AXT tie-in, which is a big part of this book, actually.
Mm.
There's also, again, this is the fight between Vulcan and Storm. This also sets
Yes.
up Abigail Brand's X-Men, which are her like bad guys, as like all her traitors that exist. And yeah, it's X-Men in space, but done better than Marauders. And I will go back and say this all the time.
See, I would disagree.
It's done way better than
but-
Marauders.
And
No.
this guy's
Way
name
better
is
than
Iron Hands or
No.
Iron Horns. What's this guy's deal? I
Iron
know he
Fire.
pops up Iron Fire.
He comes
yeah.
out of Sins of Sinister.
Yeah, he's a Sins of Sinister guy. It's
Mhm.
very similar to Rasputin V or whatever her name is.
No,
Where-
he's
or-
not. No, he's not time.
No, not a chimera.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, it's just like one of these characters that just shows up in these X books.
Yeah,
and then is
so
there for a while.
so he actually was. He's one of the Akari. He's
Yeah.
first.
He does
introduced-
show up in Sins of Sinister though.
Yeah, he's
there.
introduced here, and then he plays a bigger role in Sins of Sinister. That's why it makes sense. Like it's because it's a tie-in. It's a direct tie-in.
This
to Sins of
book,
Sinister.
X-Men Red and Immortal X-Men, those are the two big event books that lead into Sins of Sinister. You
Yeah.
gotta read these two books at the very
Yes.
least.
Yeah,
Like
And
Legion of X, you don't really have to read too much. You can read it if you want, but you don't have
Yeah.
to. But these two specifically, you gotta read if
Yeah,
you're gonna
there's
read
a
Sins of
l-
Sinister.
Yeah, there's a lot. And you know what I think I really enjoyed about X-Men Red is that there's a perfect balance of like exposition and action.
That's
So
good Al
like
Ewing right there.
you don't get really bogged down with a lot of the like geopolitical, politics that are happening, but you also don't get overrun with a lot of just action and no like kind of settling down. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of poignant moments here in X-Men Red that just make it a joy to read.
It's great. I think Al Ewing does a great job blending his Guardians run into this by making him over a member of the Brotherhood. He also takes again. We'll talk about AXE and Sins when we get to those two books. But yeah, I think X-Men Red is one of the powerhouse books of from Destiny of X forward. I think X-Men Red is one of the best books written, hands down.
X-Men Red is one of the
Also-
only X-Men Colors era books that gets to continue. You know, it was Blue, Gold, and
Yes.
Red. Red was the late edition, but they liked X-Men Red so much they brought it back. I mean, to be fair, Arako's what, Mars?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Red
The Red
Planet,
Planet,
Magneto was
yeah,
red.
that's
I
why.
get it, but it's cool that it's like a volume 2 technically of X-Men Red from the Colors era. Not a continuation, but like the same title. I like when they throw back to like, oh, we've used this before.
I also really love the fact that this book is just like filled with let's try and manipulate Iska the Unbeaten to our advantage all the time.
You gotta get the
Like,
if
they
you get the
finesse
person
her
that only
so
pulls
much.
W's, you gotta bring him in here. Yeah,
Dude,
that's
Apocalypse's
one who
sister-in-law. Yes.
yeah, that's the one that beats Betsy, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And a lot of this does explain, like, Arako has their own version of the Choir Council. This is everything that's kind of like how the Akari live and how they operate now that they're on Mars, while also Mars being the hub of the solar system. But also it sets up Iron Man. So
I think that might be next, but I'm not
And-
positive.
Just as a last note of it, what I do like about also X-Men Red is that it takes sort of the Krakoan kind of like bureaucracy and it still respects the Arako tradition.
yes.
So like it's a nice blend of both where they were just like, well, we're not going to impose our whole new quiet council.
Because
You're going to
Storm
follow like
joins the
a lot of
Araco
the
Quiet Council, basically. Like she leaves, her and Magneto leave the Remain Quiet Council. I know she's not on it, but like she's around.
No, her
And
Magneto
then they
leave.
bounce to the
Yeah.
the
Well-
Araco Quiet Council, the Mars
Yes.
Council, or whatever it is, like the
The
5 or
Kari,
6 of
yeah.
them,
It's like the Choir, whatever it's called.
She's
but,
like the Krakoan representative of Araco,
No.
which I think is
But
fun.
no, because
No.
like they still have to like earn their spots as Iraqi
yes.
citizens,
well,
so they
yeah.
still have to like go on their fight and earn their actual seat
That's
and
yeah,
take
so,
it from the other person who actually was on the council.
Yeah,
Magneto
but Storm
beats-
is Storm. So
But yeah, so Storm beats. I forgot who Storm beats. War. Does she beat War or Death?
Yeah, I think it was. I think you're getting ahead. I think it was the. I remember the guy perfectly. Like
Magneto fights Taurid, the
Yeah.
geneticist guy. That's the one he takes his
yes,
seat from.
yes.
But
He
I thought
beats-
Storm fought Apocalypse's son Death. The one with
No,
the
I-
Nega's head. That's why she was able to take a seat, because she fought him in X of Swords, and this was their rematch.
I thought that was later on. I thought she defeated
It
War
might
in
be.
this one.
It might be. Again, a lot of the back end gets blurry.
Either way, yes.
Yes. And also, a part of them going to Araco is that they have to give up their resurrection protocols on Krakoa, because they cannot sit on the council on Araco, because being able to be resurrected is a sign of weakness. Magneto and Storm give up that ability.
yeah, which is why when Magneto dies, people are like, "Oh shit!"
It's a big thing.
Yeah, because he's like dead.
Yeah, like he can't come back.
And that's why Storm goes,
like-
"Fuck it."
I
But we'll
mean,
get there.
Yes, but yeah,
the whole
X-Men
arrow
Red,
away.
also in this era for X-Men Red, you get to see again, like, Axe is the big story that ties into this, and this and Sinister is a big setup for this era.
Yeah, but we'll get to that.
Yes.
Next up, X-Men, not Iron Man yet. X-Men 10 through 24. This is Prime Duggan.
Yes.
Duggan with Laraza, Pina, Kasari, and Caselli. Lots of X-Men. A lot happens here, too. New X-Vote means new members, including Firestar. Give a shout-out to my fave. Iron Man starts coming around when Duggan gets in the rain. That gets reigns. That's because, look, could not say something with his giant-ass Iron Man. And then
course.
Talon is something, huh?
Yeah.
And Captain Marvel crossover, but that's later.
So X-Men by Duggan, post Inferno goes back to its roots as a superhero book. This is the one that will be crossing over with the rest of the Marvel universe, as you see in Iron Man. It's a crossover.
Yeah,
The crossover in Captain Marvel. Um, this is the setup as Firestar joins the team. You
as well
have
as Talon, Magic, and Iceman.
yes. You also show that Talon is not Laura. There's a reason we call her Talon and not Laura or Wolverine. It's revealed that from the last run, that when Sync, Laura, and Darwin went into the vault, they thought Laura was dead. Psych, she wasn't, and they found her body. They went back in the vault, found her body, and now she's Talon. She's older, has all the memories that Darwin has. Not Darwin, that Sync has.
Darwin like becomes the Vault or some shit like that.
Darwin
Because
is,
Darwin's like, I am
yes.
made to adapt except for X-Men First Class.
Yeah,
So
I know.
he
That's
just
funny. You
blows
bring up
through the
this
vault in this one.
little side tangent on when I went to San Antonio on the flight down there. I was watching X-Men First Class on the plane.
Dude, that Darwin is Mr. Terrific for the new.
Yes, he
Superman movie.
is.
Hell
Yes,
yeah!
he is.
Redemption for Darwin.
Yes. But yeah, this is the Marvel superhero book. This is the AXE book that they cross over with. This is the oh my god, what was else was going on in this era? This is the where everything was like that. Let's put the X-Men in every Marvel book possible.
Oh
because
yeah,
the
Dark
X-Men
Web
book.
happens in here a
This
little
is Dark
bit.
Web. Yeah, this is
Axe.
yes.
But there's a King in Black tie-in.
Yeah, so these
Iron
are
Man, obviously. There's
this
a
is
lot. This is
the
the
this is
X-Men does superhero stuff book.
yes, and this was great about it. It's great from start to finish so far. But again, this is the when X-Men get to be superheroes.
Yeah, and look, they crossed over with Captain Marvel too, and it's not even. It's like all of Volume 4, except for the one issue ties into the Iron Man
I
stuff.
know.
It's like all
But
of Volume 4 is the Captain Marvel one.
it is cool to see the team. I think Sync plays a bigger role. They give Sync a lot of stuff to do.
Oh yeah,
because he
Sync
did
is like
nothing.
Duggan's guy in this one. It's like
Yeah.
whoever
Yes, Sync
wrote
becomes-
Gold's Ink. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like
It's
Like
just
every
Sync
X-Men writer
so
picks a
incredible.
guy and goes, "This is my X-Men that I'm gonna have forever."
Yeah.
For me, it's probably gonna be Glob Herman. If I ever get to write X-Men, you hear me, Marvel? Glob's gonna be on the team. And
shut up.
that's when they just cross
Shut
my
up.
name off the list. They're like,
Yeah, right there.
like
They heard.
X-Force.
They're like never again.
Glob on X-Force? Just saying.
I mean, anything could happen. At this point, 10 years down the line, all of a sudden we'll have like a Hunter book.
I'm telling you, man.
With
I'll be
Glob's
in the second age of Krakoa. I'll be writing the Glob Herman solo book that lasts 50 issues. All right. Anything else to say? Closing.
No, just a really solid superhero book. Like it's just a classic superhero team. So it's just basically like, the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, this is the X-Men, this is what they do. So
it's the good stuff.
yeah. And I love Polaris, so
Oh yeah, she's only in it for the first half of the second and third volume, I believe. Because in the middle of that, there's a Hellfire Gala. This one's the Hellfire Gala. That's where Magic is here. Iceman's back here. Let's move on to the next bit. Wolverine 10 through 35. This is the where Beast is off the team and just decides to be a dick to Wolverine for a while.
Yes.
Percy and Kubert with Juan Jose Ripe keep Bub on track as they build towards some old X Factor storylines, and X-Force is in shambles come Beast versus Wolverine. Maverick has got to be Percy's favorite nothing burger because he's in all of his books. Bub. Yeah, Maverick is right here if you couldn't tell. And then Maverick also shows up in Punisher Wolverine and earlier X-Force. So yeah, Maverick is like Percy's favorite guy.
Yeah. Again, like Hunter said, this is Wolverine continuing on by Percy. Again, one of the other books that wasn't renumbered at any point. The big storyline in this is the Beast versus Wolverine story. This actually sets up the crossover between Wolverine and X-Force. As we enter that explains the back end, which will be volume
it's like
8 in the trade for X-Force. I think it's 9. This is like it would be 7 for Wolverine. The crossover. But yeah, it's more of Wolverine being Wolverine. It is the introduction of Deadpool. This is how Deadpool actually joins X-Force. It starts here, and then he's brought over to the X-Force book. There is a secret mission that Wolverine goes on by himself to uncover some old Weapon X secrets that uncover what Beast is actually doing. during the entire time as he falls apart due to his own corruption. In fact, that if you see if you're watching this on video, by the way, we have video now, guys.
Just for
Check
these
that.
2 episodes.
Yeah, right now. For
Don't give
now,
everybody hope.
I know.
We're gonna try our
Um,
best.
you can see that Beast also wields the Cerebro sword, going all the way back to X of Swords and back to X-Men issue 6,
Yeah, he kept this
with the
shit
birth of the
alive.
Cerebro sword, which actually gave birth to the X-Force team as a whole. It is classic Wolverine. Again, I can't complain. Percy knows what he's doing. He
It's
does
tough to
the
talk about X-Force and Wolverine without going, it's good.
yeah. And so like
Because
it's
it's one of the
solid.
only
Like
books that's just like, all right, yeah, let's keep it up.
well, that's the thing. Like during this era, Wolverine is like the problem with any solo Wolverine story. We've talked about this before. Is that Wolverine itself is so hard to bog down as a character because he's doing Wolverine stuff. Like
Yeah,
there's
but,
nothing
but
more we
he's
could
also on
say.
like every single team. Like half the time when Wolverine has his own solo book, he's on both the Avengers and the X-Men. And he's got his own book and probably teaching a class. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
like
Yeah,
Wolverine is always doing stuff. So having a era where he's so intrinsically tied to I mean, I'm glad they never put him on the main X-Men team. Having him intrinsically tied to X-Force, keeping him like kind of tied to a team while also having all of his solo adventures, it does get a little convoluted. But I think Percy having one writer write the whole thing, all the issues, is a great idea. I'm glad that whatever magic Percy was doing to keep them all from renumbering him, it was crazy.
I
And he also
know.
had a Ghost Rider tie-in, which we'll get to as
Yes,
well.
which we'll get. It's the next. It's actually volume 7.
Yeah, yeah.
But
It's in the fall.
this arc during this era, this arc contains weapons of X, which is the final part of the Beast Wolverine story, in which he has been cloning Wolverine to make weapons, and he has built a kind of island offshoot of Krakoa that he controls like a giant mech. This is also the Beast agenda, where it's finally Beast versus Wolverine, and also the AXC tie-in.
Always got to have that XXX.
oh yeah.
Knights of X is our next little bit. Howard and Quinn continue Betsy and Excalibur's storyline here, with Betsy taking a more prominent role in the wider Marvel universe because she's Captain Britain. Wonder where that goes. That's a tease for
Yes.
Fall of X. Additions are Shatterstar and Doug's large wife from X of Swords. I don't know her name, but I just know she's a big Doug wife.
She's Bay of the Blood Moon.
Sure. Doug's wife. Doug's big wife.
Yeah, it's Doug's big wife, and I love that she's on the team. Megan's on the team. Shogo is a dragon. And it just is the continuation
Yeah,
of
Shatterstar and Richter are dating. That's why he's on the book. If you
yes,
read the
it's
Shatterstar miniseries during the Colors era, it's a good play, like a good prelude to this.
they also what's the big part of the story is that it is the fall. It's really a fallout of X of Swords more than anything, as mutants are no longer accepted or wanted in Otherworld, and they are hunted in this book. It's almost like they it's almost a throwback to the idea of they'll put the world that fears and hates them. But the one big thing about this book, when it was first launched, was if you went to Otherworld, there was no way of getting you out of Otherworld because the gates to Otherworld, the external gate, was destroyed at the end of X of Swords. So if you got to Otherworld by some means, they could not pull you out. And if you died there, you couldn't be resurrected because you'd still be all messed up. So this small squadron takes upon themselves to go into Otherworld. It actually starts off as a Betsy retrieval squad, and then it expands into a hey, we always protect everyone, the mutants that are
It's the
stuck
Betsy
here.
retrieval arc.
It is. They are this squad ends up being like, oh hey, we're gonna protect everyone that's kind of there.
She's the Sasuke of Krakoa.
They are. And also the one thing they don't lean into, which they should have done, was that they also get new powers kind of when they're in each of them gets new powers when they're in Otherworld. Richter becomes a better geomancer, a kinetic, Shogo becomes a dragon. Betsy and Rachel fall in love and she's able to create
We'll get there.
fire butterflies now and something else she was supposed to become. She also takes the name of Rachel also takes the name of Scani in this era. Bay is just Bay. Megan is just Megan. Shatterstar is a better hunter, and
Gambit's
Gambit
here.
can
Gambit's
no,
here.
the one thing that he was able to do was use tarot cards because he would just normally have his throwing cards, but when he would throw them, stuff would happen.
Ooh.
And they just never do that ever again. This
Well,
is
it's
the
because
only
it's
time you see it,
magic.
and that's what it is. This is the only time you see it. The arc ends, and then the series is over. And I'm like, okay, that was a cool concept. Are you ever bringing it back? No.
No. Gambit doesn't do magic anymore. Be for
No.
real.
Gambit can't be cool.
And that's the biggest disappointment about X of Swords. Like I like, Excalibur into X of Swords. I think X of Swords was weak, and then I think the Timmy Howard train just gets weaker as the series goes on in her trilogy. Um, and it is because there are, great concepts in this book. Like they're X-Men to people in other worlds. So one, they were separated from the rest of the main people, so you didn't get wrapped up in that stuff. But also it was a whole world of magic and lore you could build. This is the era with the Black Knight, with Captain Britain being the Black Knight. This is the oh my god, this is Captain Avalon. This is like the rebirth of Captain Britain Corps. This is like cool out there magic, like D&D high fantasy nonsense, and it's all thrown away by the end of it. And that's what drives me nuts about this book, because the idea that, look, having mutants go to Otherworld is like, all right, cool. Anyway, I can go to Otherworld technically. But then if you make it where, all right, mutants, when they enter Otherworld, their powers kind of get altered in some sort of way, shape, and form.
And that's why
Based
Gambit can use
on
the tarot cards.
Right, and I think that would be that was a cool concept that was never done before. Because we've seen the mutants explore Otherworld before, and there's been weird stuff that happens when they are in Otherworld, like during Excalibur, during Claremont's run, where they like their powers don't work on certain areas or certain people, because of them being from Otherworld, which is a cool idea. And then Timmy starts to expand it by going, "Hey, there is like stuff that happens here that will affect your mutant powers," and it just goes nowhere.
It's like, we're just gonna put that in the back room and never speak of it again.
No, I
And,
know.
I mean, personally, I told you I didn't really follow Excalibur. Maybe I'll do it in trade paperback. It sounds kind of interesting, so I might take the chance and actually read it. But I always feel like whenever you get like the X-Men involved in magic, it just is lackluster. Like
It's
and
tough to
that's
do because you're like the mutant powers come off as almost magic abilities, but you have to like not talk about that because it's in your blood. So it is tough to just kind of be like, and magic's here too. But it is good to see because Doctor Strange doesn't interact with the X-Men as much as he should. There is a Death of Doctor Strange tie-in somewhere. I think that's the Black Knight one. But like,
The other Black Knight. When I say Black
yeah,
Knight, I'm talking about
yeah.
Brian being Black Knight, not Black Knight being Black Knight.
Yeah, sure. I figured. But yeah, like it's cool when the X-Men gets to interact with magic because I feel like at least nowadays they don't interact with magic as much as they should, given like Apocalypse having like kind of magic motifs, being like
Yeah.
ancient Egyptian and kind of like that's always a cursed mummy magic, you know.
which
So,
always weirds me out because there are certain X-Men that have like affinities to magic, like Magic herself, and like Storm, and I
Scarlet Witch
guess
sometimes,
you know
depending on what era.
but I'm kind of just like, yeah, the whole. I feel like it falls short because they all have powers. So, like, at least in Doctor Strange or something like that, you're dealing with people who you're trying to protect from the people who use magic for evil, as opposed to like, okay, well, you have mutants who already have powers, so you don't need to really add the magic element to it. Like it's already there. It'd be like, you know, having like the Avengers.
Yeah, but at least when they do it, they keep it contained to Otherworld, where they're
Yeah.
saying like mutants have some intrinsic extra ability when they come to Otherworld. And I think it's a kind of cool concept that they should explore more. And I think because of how X of Swords, I'm sorry, not X of Swords, Knights of X was handled editorially, getting cut short, I think it would have been the book to explain more of how mutantdom works in relation to Magic, because Excalibur did great, but then X of Swords are supposed to be the sequel expansion, but it
I mean,
ended up being cut short editorially. But Betsy does continue off in another book. That's where the Wonder Where That Goes is
yeah.
referencing to.
And I mean, just as a last thought, I think it would have been a teeny bit more interesting, honestly, if when mutants go into Otherworld, instead of like gaining some adaptive power or gaining some like special ability alongside their power, is that their X gene triggers a unique ability that they get overall.
Yeah, like forever or just only in Otherworld.
Only in Otherworld. So like you go to Otherworld, and because you have like the X gene, you get this whole other random ability.
I think it.
Like,
Oh, you mean like differing than like an because Gambit's is an enhancement to his ability where the
yeah,
tarot cards end up
like
doing something. So you're saying not an expansion but an addition.
yeah, like
Okay.
not an expansion, not even an addition, just replacement while in Otherworld.
Oh, like a full-on transference. That would be
Yeah,
an interesting concept to do, like an X-Men miniseries or something, where you put them in a place that swaps all their abilities, not like with each other. They've done that before, I think, where it's like, what if the I think it was a what if book, or what if the X-Men switched abilities or whatever. But like if you're saying like especially if you pick a team like this where it's like instead of Betsy having like telekinetic swords, she can turn her arms into metal blades or something, like full on replacement for her
yeah, like
ability.
full on
That could be
replacement. Like,
interesting.
yeah, I think it would be a
Yeah.
pretty cool concept.
Yeah, I would definitely be interested in exploring that. Marvel, if you want me, James, or Justin to write it for you, we're all right here. We're down to do X-Men. So, but speaking
We're
of,
down to
let's
do
keep
a
the
random
train going.
miniseries.
Yeah.
Speaking of X-Men, we got New Mutants. Danny Lore joins Ayala and Reyes as they finish up their New Mutants run to make it away for something new. Step on Me Mommy Madeline is here. She makes more future appearances. There she is. This is her first big intro, at least when New Mutants released issue 25 in order, you know what I mean? She made an appearance in the Dark Web crossover for X-Men that technically came out before this, but shut up, the slides are in order of first issue release of the age.
I like
So
to
yes,
say,
but Madeline isn't here. This is right before Magic jumps over to the X-Men team.
yes. First of all, like the Step on Me Mommy Madeline, it has a TM next to
I
it.
trademarked
But
it.
yes, this is actually a spin out of Hellions, as Madeline has been brought into Krakoa post Hellions. Her
Yeah,
job
this is
at
like
this
her
point,
first like that was like her guest appearance. This is like
her first role.
she's on the
Yeah.
island forever now.
So
She's here.
this
She's here and
also
she's staying.
this also is a book where kind of Magic wants to give up being the Queen of Limbo. That's why she is training Madeline throughout the entirety of the first arc of it, which is volume 3. And then volume 4 is the again classic New Mutants, mixing and blending both the old and new mutants to set up the next event for them. It's getting ready for Magic to leave the team. It's setting up Danny being the leader again, because Magic has kind of taken the leadership role for it. It's cool because Honey Badger's there and it's awesome. There's also
Yeah,
another.
Warpath is here too.
Yes. Because Proudsaw, his brother, is on Arakko in X-Men Red. I'm trying to remember. There's another big story. I'm looking it up because I do not remember the big story in New Mutants this volume.
Well,
Besides the Hellion stuff.
Justin, did you read the New Mutants? Could you
I
tell
did.
James what the big story is?
Well, I don't
No,
know.
we
Well, I was just gonna go back to the whole like Madeline and taking over Limbo. Thought that was a
Hell
really
yeah.
cool concept, honestly.
Yes.
It was also really fitting because I was like, I feel like they always bring Maddie back, and then she doesn't really have her own thing. Like,
Yeah, she's always just like, oh, she's Jean, but goth.
exactly. So
That's
most of her time is spent just trying to not be Jean and trying to tell people that
yes.
she's not Jean. And this
It's
is
baby
the
work.
one story where they were like, where Magic's like, you know what? I don't want to be ruler of Limbo anymore, and I feel like you'd be a perfect fit.
Yeah, you're the Goblin Queen, right? Take that shit.
And so I that's this is probably one of my favorite Maddie stories, honestly. And I'm not a super huge Maddie fan.
So Maddie gets a
So
lot of play from here on out. She's in
she
like
really
after this,
does.
she's in like every other title. It's wild.
I knew what the big story was. I figured it out.
Oh yeah, you figured it out with Google.
Did you?
Shut
Google
up.
AI?
Sweet Google. it's the besides that being the Mally, this is the end of the series. Again, one of the only books not to be renumbered from since the beginning of Krakoa. It ends at issue 33, the last story arc, which is
I think it's
volume 4.
34. There's one
33.
issue that is not written by Danny and Vita. I think it's written by the other writer for
It's a
Lethal
one.
Legion.
It's a one. It's the miniseries. Is Lethal Legion.
Yeah, but I think
Yeah.
there's a one shot issue 34 that leads into it or something like that. I
No.
remember there's the last issue is not written by the main team because it's a tie-in to it's a setup for Lethal Legion. I mean, I
Yeah.
forget if it's issue 33.
It's 33.
Okay, whatever the
Because
final one is.
Charlie Jane Anders writes issue 33.
That one, yeah. Okay, yeah, then that's the one I'm talking about. Yeah, my bad.
Yeah, so it starts off being the setup for a new set of new mutants because it starts off with issue 31. 31 through 33 is the a new squad of new mutants,
Okay.
which is Cerebrex, Escap. Oh my god, I want to butcher that name.
Some
I
of
cannot.
some of them there.
Well, it's called the Lost Club. So it's a Knoll, Escabe, Scout, Honey Badger, Sarabella, which is Martha Johnson, in a body from all the way from Grant Morrison's era.
Yep.
Cossamer, Leo N, and Rainboy are to be like the new mutants. And then
Sure.
it becomes like the Legion.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because Danny has to go do Realms of X or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that hasn't
yeah,
happened yet.
her and Magic go do some Vanaheim stuff, but we'll get there. That's soon.
Yes.
That's soon. But let's get
Big
to the
sexy
next
mommy,
bit.
yeah.
Unless Justin has anything else to close out on. I know you like New
Uh,
Mutants.
I really enjoyed New Mutants, and honestly, I mean, I really enjoyed Old Squad New Mutants. I was like, it's still an adjustment to get used to New Mutants, but
The
uh,
new.
So many new mutants. The new mutants keep going.
But speaking of New Mutants, let's get
Let's go.
into Legion of X. Spurrier teams up with a bunch of artists, Jane Bazoldua, Rafael Pimentel, Netho Diaz, to bring Nightcrawler's next epic. This time, he's trying to iron out the Krakoan laws, especially after Judgment Day. He also hangs out with Xavier's stepbrother and son. Weird flex, but okay.
Yes.
I
Oh
mean,
no, stepbro. Don't worry, there's no picture. There's no
waiting
picture.
Wait, there's
No, but yeah, no. So this is Juggernaut is officially welcomed into Krakoa through his actions during one of the Unlimited books and Savage Avengers or something. So he's officially allowed here with Nightcrawler and Legion finishing up the Onslaught stuff and going into the post Judgment Day. You guys need to do better deal that Nightcrawler was hit with.
Yes. So Legion of X is part 2 of Cy Spurrier's run of his trilogy.
His Nightcrawler trilogy.
His Nightcrawler trilogy. The team of Pixie, Weaponless Zen, Nightcrawler, Juggernaut, Legion, and kind of Destiny-ish, because she's in with Legion. It is the iron out what they have now set up what's called the Altar, which is a kind of astral plane place where people can go and kind of live out their days, and it's almost like a false paradise. It's a way for people that want to repent can repent there. People, that's where there's like a lot of the marriage ceremonies are supposed to be take place in the Altar. But Legion of X, the big part of it is that this team, this specific team, by the way, Weaponless Zen is like their first mission is to go after a murder of a god that happened on Araco. And they then go from there, kind of exploring different ideologies that will then mix with Nightcrawler. We also see Ignis. This is post Sins of Sinister, Ignis, which is actually Banshee mixed with the spirit of convenience. I have to look that one up, but it's like Ignis Vox is his name, but it's Banshee mixed with one of the spirits, and his thing is like evolution and stagnation. But yeah, the book is more of an exploration of what does mutant kind mean spiritually. What does it mean to be a person on an island paradise? And yeah, that's kind of more of what he was doing in Way of X. It just Legion of X sets up a team and also sets up no one, the one everyone forgets. Yeah. He's also on the team.
Forget Me Not.
Forget me not. Thank you. I
Yeah,
gotta
yeah,
find
yeah.
out.
I love Forget Me Not.
Hold on, I gotta find it out. Oh, and this is also the introduction to Mother Righteous.
Yeah, which leads into Sins of
Also,
Sinister.
I forgot to mention this before. You
Sins
met
of Sinister
Orb.
happens like in between these two. You know.
Yes. Also the in X-Men Red, you met Orb Solaris. Sinister was already in X-Men, and you met Dr. Stasis in X-Men.
Oh yeah, yeah. Those are the
The
Sinister
setup.
Four going over.
Yes.
Justin, did you get a chance to read Legion of X or no?
I feel like I vaguely remember it, to be honest, because I do
Sleeping
remember
on
the.
Nightcrawler.
I yeah, not gonna lie, his books were like I feel like I kind of can understand James's thoughts and feelings on Marauders because that's how I felt about like the Nightcrawler books. like I felt like the introduction of Mother Righteous was kind of also really confusing.
Yeah, I never really understood all of the four Sinisters. Like
I
he's
did.
cloned three evil versions of himself and a version of his wife or
Yep.
something, but they all hate each other and themselves. Like,
Yep.
Like
okay,
I ended up getting it like towards the end,
yeah.
but like in the
Well, they do that
beginning,
Sinister
it was
Four
just
book, which is collected at the back end of Legion
yeah.
of X, the Before the Fall stuff, which we'll talk about later.
But I mean, honestly, it just really didn't make an impression on me. I was kind of just like, I definitely phoned it in on trying to read through these.
Fair enough. I'm a big
That's right.
Juggernaut and Nightcrawler fan, so I was in on this book, and I'm a fan of Spurrier. He writes a lot of heady books, but I like heady sometimes. You know,
And it's the spirit of
sometimes you gotta think,
variance, by the way.
huh?
It's spirit of variance. That's what he's
Variance.
yes. And he has a change of scream, which is like the pen and stare. It's really cool. But yeah, no, a lot of this does tie into what will be Sinister.
Mhm.
Um and yeah, and Mother Righteous plays a huge role in this book. Um and it's kind of annoying because like if you don't know what's happening, it's kind of annoying that she just pops up here and there. And yeah. But no, a lot of this is big heady spirituality nonsense. Very reminds me of old school Stalin with like Warlock and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So yeah.
All right. Next up on the list is Deadpool. So issues 1 through 9 are the books that take place during Destiny of X, but issue 10 is the last issue of the series, collecting both volumes. That takes place during the fall, but I'm not making an extra slide for that. So Deadpool is finally here, officially in his own little solo series with Alyssa Wong, who has previously written TV and then Doc Afra. And there's Martin Kokolo and Javier Pina from other books tag team some art. Haven't read this one. Not a huge Deadpool fan, honestly. It is what it is. I heard it's very good. And then Deadpool. Oh, okay, fine. And there's Deadpool. Everybody gets one. Everybody gets one. You know. But did you, James? I know you're also not a Deadpool fan. Are we not a Deadpool fan on this? James, Justin, do you like Deadpool?
God no. I mean, not God no.
Yeah, yeah. Just like fuck
You're
no.
like that. It's like
You're like I
I
like the
mean,
movies.
I do like the movies, and the only time I really enjoyed Deadpool was in Cable and Deadpool
Fair enough.
because I
I'm a
feel
big
like
Duggan era guy.
yes, and I feel like the two characters are just really good foils of each other, and you kind of just like get a nice balance of Deadpool. Uh, Outside of that, I really don't like him in anything else, and I definitely didn't read any Deadpool during the
so.
Fair
I
Krakoan
will.
age.
I will then go through Deadpool here. Deadpool is back to being a mercenary, but then this time he's accepted on Krakoa as being a member of X Force, and now he's going out to do fight and help mutant kind. Along the way, he gets a symbiote dog. I forgot what the name of the dog is, as you can see on the cover of Volume 2. He has a cool symbiote dog. Also, he gets a love interest, Valentina, who is they them. I think it's they them in the book. We don't know. We're I
We
think
didn't read it.
no. I think Valentina does. I think Valentina uses the pronouns they them in the book.
Oh yeah, we're getting. I wouldn't know.
But they never go over anything else. Because it's like it's a whole thing. Like Wade selling down. It's almost very much like the sad clown era of Deadpool. I did read this, by the way. I don't like Deadpool. I did read this because it's only 10 issues long. And so yeah, it's Deadpool resetting up a whole family. It's him going back and finally accepting he can find love in his life. He's rebuilding his family as he has Valentina. He has his dog with him. In fact, like Wolverine makes a couple cameos in the book. So is Cable. There's a big final fight towards the end of the series where he is regressing, thinking about his daughter and Negasonic and like the family he has had, which is the part of the next Deadpool series. But yeah, it is very much the like Deadpool sad clown era redux, but with more X-Men stuff. So he's interacting with the X-Men more.
Sounds good.
One of us had to read Deadpool.
Yeah, one
I
of us
did.
had to read it.
I'm glad you took it upon yourself for that. Good job.
There we go. There's the rest of the Knights of X storyline that wasn't able to be fully finished. Betsy, Braddock, Cap, and Britain. Howard continues to bring Betsy around with Vasco Gorgiev. This is, again, more Marvel Universe for real, but this time it's still an X title. Hashtag Betscani. Betscani is the ship name, I think. I don't know. They kiss a bunch. So I have not, admittedly, I've not read this one.
I have.
I am a big Captain Britain. I'm a big
Me-
Tinny Howard fan, but
I'm a
I
big
didn't
Captain
read
Britain
this.
fan.
I didn't read this one yet. I heard it's good, and like I said, lots of kissing.
Mm.
They kiss a bunch. This is where they officially go. That they start like officially dating or something. This is it.
Yeah,
For real.
because so the ending of Knights of X ends with that kiss that's on the screen. And then the next start is Betsy Braddock, Captain Britain. She has come back home to Britain after being in Otherworld, and she's taking her rightful place as Captain Britain, and the rest of Marvel Universe can go suck it. And there is a whole scene of mages and the Coven Akatsuki going after her during this time, and it's more of just like again the trilogy. This is the final part of Betsy's story, leading up towards fall, where she is just kind of embracing what it means to be Captain Britain in America, in Britain, because she hasn't actually been Captain Britain in Britain since she took the mantle in Excalibur. She was there for a little bit, and now she's actually going to become Captain Britain to the world. Um, you see the rise of Brian being Captain Avalon, and kind of more the history of Braddock Manor and the lighthouse and what it means. And yes, Bet Scani is cool. I guess it just seems like out of left field for me. I don't really like it. And before people get mad, oh, is that because they're two girls? It's not that. I just don't think Rachel and Betsy are a good couple. I think it's actually stupid. Like they're a telepath that's that, and they're another telepath, and they're both like no, no, no. If anything, Claremont wanted Rachel to be with Kitty, which I also don't like. But yeah, Claremont originally wanted. I explained this to Hunter off mic one day.
No,
So
yeah, I'm
Claremont,
very much aware of Claremont's the one, but I kind of feel like Betsy and Kitty make sense, and I feel like that goes
Betsy,
all the way back to like, oh gosh, what was it?
yes, Betsy and Kitty makes sense, not Rachel and Kitty. Because he wanted Rachel and Kitty to get together so much so that he has their kids show up in X-Men in the end.
Mm.
The reason why it doesn't make any sense is because Rachel remembers Kitty as her aunt who's married to Colossus, and now she's in the present time. That's what's weird. She's just hitting on her aunt. That's why I think it's weird. Just a younger version of her aunt. That's why I don't like the Kitty Rachel thing. If she wasn't time travel, I wouldn't care. Because she's a time traveler, she knows this. But also, yes, I don't also like the Betsy and Ascani.
Actually, Betsy and Ascani doesn't leave a bad taste in my mouth. I feel like honestly, throughout their adventures, especially when they were all on a team together, I'm failing to remember. Feel like I want to say Uncanny X-Men.
Betsy and Psylocke?
Rachel, yeah, no, it was Betsy, Rachel, Storm, Sage,
Extreme.
and yes, an Extreme X-Men. Like they had a really, really very, very queer relationship that I was like, oh, I didn't really think of this, but I guess they kind of like they kind of make cute flirtatious jabs at each other, and I feel like they can be a cute couple only because like both have been through so much, and I feel like that
Yeah.
is kind of what really bonds them together.
Man.
Now you're weird when it comes to certain couples.
Yeah.
I just think it's weird when it comes out of not really left field because Tinny Howard was talking about it since Knights of X and tiny bit at the end of
Yeah.
Excalibur. I just think it's weird given before the Krakoan era there wasn't a lot of even cross around between these two besides like one or two off kilter titles during a weird Fox doesn't Marvel and Disney don't want to promote the Fox X-Men books basically.
There's that.
Yeah, but I mean, hey, so far they're keeping it around the relationship. So
Well, 100%. Again, I'm not against the relationship. Really, I just don't like it's weird and dumb. Um, I just don't like that
I get
Saying
pairing.
I
it's
get what
weird
you're
and dumb is basically
I get
saying you
what you're
don't like
saying.
it.
I get
No.
what you're saying, but at the same time, like
Like,
I don't
I
like
don't
it.
care enough about these two characters specifically to care enough. You know what I mean?
This series also has the idea of, besides her being in charge of Captain Britain Corps, this is the rise of Morgan Le Fay. This is also, which was in the last series with, oh my goodness, in Knights of X with
Morgan Le Fay
Mordred.
always be rising.
I know, with Mordred. This also introduces Captain Carter into the mainstream universe as she is the sentinel for Captain Britain to fight. Um, Morgan Le Fay brings Peggy Carter into the mainstream universe to fight against Betsy, to be an alternate Captain Britain. So that one would take over. So she at least has someone that's not Betsy in charge of Captain Britain Corps.
All right, let's move on.
It's issue 2, by the way. It is issue 2.
That's issue one too many.
Like you're like, what is happening in this series?
Yeah, so both of the Sabretooth titles take place during the Destiny of X, right at the beginning and right at the end. Victor
Yes.
LaValle and Leonard Kurth bring us a double dose of bad daddy energy with Sabretooth and his fellow exiles. Suicide Squad again, kinda. Hellions rep, they ain't gone yet. Way better than they needed to be.
Okay, so
I haven't heard one bad thing about these books, and James is gonna
Okay.
fucking hit me with it though.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I've heard only good things about these books. I don't know.
That's until I
Victor
shut all
LaValle
of them.
also helped out during Sabretooth War, so he's like the Sabretooth guy now.
Yes. So, the first volume, Sabretooth the Adversary, spins out of his time in the pit. It's a self-examination of the character Sabretooth as he goes through therapy with Cypher. And he realizes he's able to control the pit. As we were then introduced to what will become eventually the Exiles characters, as they are all thrown in the pit at the time.
Yeah, Toad
And you
gets chucked in there during Trial of X, Trial of
Yes.
Magneto, and then
Trial
all
of
the other
Magneto.
ones get
Yes.
sprinkled out throughout whatever
They
origin.
were actually they were all introduced in Sabretooth the Adversary issue 1, or just Sabretooth issue 1.
Yeah.
They are then put into the pit, and they are then kind of toyed with by Sabretooth as he takes over the pit. There's the problem with that happening is that it's affecting Krakoa, and they don't know how the island's taking it because the island's becoming more and more like Sabretooth. So they're trying to figure out a way to get him off the island. Which then leads into Sabretooth and the Exiles, in which Sabretooth has escaped the island and guards off on his own, and the Exiles, which include Orphan Maker, Nanny, not Tempo, Oye, Toad, Box, Necra, and Madison.
And then this guy, I believe, is one of the Hellions, one of the OGs.
No, that's Box.
That's Box.
So I'll show you. So if you see, you can't see on my screen. There's
I
Toad,
don't need to see.
Jeffrey Madison, Necra, Box, Orphan Nanny. I don't know who the shapeshifter is, and Oya.
It should have been Morph, but
No, we'll talk about that another time. But that team is sent out to, because they're all part of their penance, or surviving the pit, is to go get Sabretooth, and they are under the direction of Cypher.
Doug.
It's
Yeah,
good
Doug
books.
takes like a little, like Doug becomes the bad guy essentially, in
he's
a
the
manner
leader.
of narrative, which is cool.
Yeah, I mean, yes, but he's also because he doesn't believe the pit should exist.
He was
like
never
it.
into the pit.
No,
But he's technically not on the Quiet Council, so he doesn't get to weigh in.
No, he is. No, he is.
Now, later on, but at the beginning, he's just the voice. He's just supposed to be a translator.
He's chair 12. Because Krakoa is chair 13. because he has to be there to translate for Krakoa. Because if not, they would just use Black Tom, and Black Tom's too drunk to care.
And Black Tom's like, I just want
Black
Juggernaut
Tom's
back.
too crazy to care.
I mean,
Yeah, well,
yeah, he's
Black Tom
become
just he's doing
Black Tom's
X-Force.
Juggernaut.
So,
It's like our Taskmaster Black Ant. But yeah, that
Justin,
both
did you
those.
read these?
I did not, but I heard good things about that.
But no, it is
Because
very important.
to me, Sabretooth like reads like Wolverine, and I'm kind of just like,
Fair enough.
I can skip it. And
The
then
thing, no. The thing with this
Nah,
series,
nah.
though, yeah, the thing with this series, it's actually very important to read these series before you get to the end of towards the end of Wolverine and Sabretooth War, 'cause these are very, very necessary, actually.
so the two one characters that I really didn't want to read anyway.
No, I know. But also the whole thing is like it goes back to X-Men issue 1 when or sorry, House and Powers, when the first person that is thrown in the pit is Sabretooth, and kind of showing the fact that the pit isn't the best kind of prison because it's an awful, awful prison, and not everyone can be rehabilitated. I think it's one of the better um kind of character studies we've had on Sabretooth in a very long time. And it's very rare that villains get their own book. And I think Sabretooth is one of those characters. I'm not saying long ongoing or anything like that, but I think these two series kind of make sense. One of it being a character study on Sabretooth, and the other one being the Get Sabretooth story, where it's like very much an Exiles book. I like the name. That's why I like the name Exiles in this. It's very much like a Suicide Squad style book. Um, but yeah, no, I think this is a great character story on Sabretooth, and it is necessary reading for Sabretooth War.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's
So,
Sabretooth. So, but let's get on to the next book. We still got so much. X Judgment Day. Here we go. I don't believe I separated these slides. There is a specific X-Men miniseries, but it's actually not an X-Men book. It's called X-Men.
it's
It's
AXE X-Men.
no, it's AXE something of the mutants, and it's like a Karnak book or something. But anyway, so Gillen's here cooking up some Eternal stuff. So there's a 3-way event for some reason. Valeri Sheedy's on art. It's fine, a little bloated, but whatever. Why are the X-Men here? Really? Buy the omnibus. That's all I got for this. I wasn't really a fan of this event.
So I will go over
I read the
AXE for
Spider-Man one, and
everyone.
I was like, "What the fuck are we doing?"
All right, so this is the reason why it's a 3-way crossover is because you have the Eternals who believe that led by Jarig, who's the Prime
Tariq
Eternal at that.
goes bad in this
Yes,
arc.
because he's the Prime Eternal at this point. He believes that X-Men are just deviants that need to be wiped out because that's their prime objective. You have
That was
the
something that
Eternals.
they were that they've been talking about in the Eternals books for a while, that the
Yeah.
X-Men are part of the Eternals
Yeah, little,
nonsense.
yeah. You have the that's the Eternals, so that's why it's gonna be really supposed to be a war between the Eternals and X-Men, and the Avengers are there because the
The
Celestial.
Avengers, man.
No, it's because at this point, still in the story, that their base is still Avengers Mountain, which is a dead Celestial.
This is during the Jason Aaron run.
Yes, and they're trying to build God, and which is a celestial to the Eternals, and they're kind of the middlemen. They're the ones trying to stop this war from happening. And by doing so, they build a God who decides that, well, you're right, humanity, we're going to judge everyone. We're not going to be able to. No, you shouldn't kill the X-Men, but you shouldn't also allow the Eternals just to do whatever. So when we'll judge the Marvel universe as a whole, and in 24 hours, um, whatever my judgment is, the world will come to pass. It's a very okay event. I'm
It was
about to.
wild.
It's big and it's just chunky, and the
Well,
problem is,
because the way they set it up was like it's across the entire Marvel universe. So
which is fine.
if you pick up the omnibus, there's 51 shots. Doctor Strange has one, Spider-Man, Venom, like
Yeah.
everybody that had a solo ongoing, like an ongoing, got one of these. It was nuts.
But I think it it was charming in its own right. Like it was kind of just like,
I mean, an event with the
okay,
Eternals is charming. It's like, what the fuck? It's like, what are these guys? Imagine if the Inhumans didn't get killed off. This would be AXI,
Probably.
AXEI, AXIE, AXIEOY, sometimes Y. You know what I mean? Like, how many more can we get in here with these teams? Young Avengers is the Y, right? But imagine
So
AXI.
So the whole
Oh
thing
my
is
god.
I would loved it. The big thing about this is that the real problem with AXC is that the ending doesn't go anywhere. The ending, the X Men, the real ending of it is that the Avengers lose Avengers Mountain, whatever.
Big in Jason Aaron's run in the wider world.
Sure, but it doesn't matter for
What?
the. But then the other two aspects are it is an eternal story. It's not.
I mean,
It's
afterwards, the Eternals gets canceled. So,
well, that's what it is. This is the
well,
final
not
Eternal
canceled.
story.
This was the 12 issues that led into
Yeah.
this. I know it was planned. It wasn't canceled. I know.
Yeah, so the Eternal story ends here, and it's the revelation that Eternals, every time an Eternal dies, they use a human being to be resurrected. And then so that's whatever for the Eternal, and then everyone thinks Eternals are bad guys, and then we never find out what that really means because the Eternal series is over at that point.
Well, because they throw not Karnak, they throw
Correct.
Druig and
Uranus.
Uranus.
Yeah, sure.
Uranus.
Gesundheit into like into basically the pit, but for the Eternals, or like
Yes.
wherever Marvel editorial put the Inhumans, that's where Druig is.
Yes.
So
I mean, it's true.
so
This
there
also,
are plotting something, and there was a Thanos
they use
that by Cantwell
yes.
that was like kind of continued what was going on, but
Yes. So, and for the X-Men, it's the revelation that mutants can be reborn, and also they're starting what's called the Phoenix Foundation, which is to
yes.
resurrect people that have
Because one of
died
the
during
things
that.
that the X-Men were judged on was like, if you can bring yourselves back, why can't you bring other people
Right.
back? And Jean's like, you know what? It's not fair that we don't offer it to them because they're not us. That's lame. That's what they do to us. So you know what? Let's be
Yes.
cool. So that's when Phoenix Foundation.
Yeah, the Phoenix Foundation starts where they go to start resurrecting people that have died in natural disasters or in
Any
pandemics.
of these like Avengers level threats.
Yeah. Also, what's really cool about this is that a lot of people die in this actual book. And they actually use the
Well,
egg
Captain
to bring.
America dies and comes back, which is nuts.
Yeah, they use him.
That
They
was
use
the
an
big
egg.
Yeah, he was
That's
the first
cool.
one, yeah.
He's the first human to come back as a reborn with the egg, which no one knows where they got the data backup for his brain. They was just like, he's coming back, right? And
It
he
was
came
World
out
War
with the
II era
shield.
Captain America.
I know.
No, it was probably whatever backup they had during Secret Empire.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm fairly certain that the X-Men probably had backups of like all major
Dude, Mr.
heroes.
Sinister's crazy, dude. And Captain America's been turned into a werewolf and turned old and young so many times. His DNA is all over the place.
It's not like a DNA thing. They can get a DNA. It was the mind pattern. So the whole thing
No,
about
I know.
there was none though.
Captain America's been all around the X-Men. It's
So
possible.
I think
Who
what it
cares?
was, I think the long and short of it is that I think they just didn't know how to write that there was no Cerebro backup for Xavier, that they for Steve, that they just took all the pieces that everyone just remembered most recently that were still alive at that point and just downloaded into his brain real quick. And went good to go. That would actually been a better fallout that Steve wasn't the same Steve, that he was like whatever they had remembered him as last, and he was a very different character post, but that's whatever. Also, this is the death of Magneto happens in AXC.
I know.
Where Uranus gets unleashed on Arakko for 1 hour and decimates the populace of Arakko.
Because fuck Mars.
But I mean,
Yeah.
he goes out like a fucking G.
And
Like,
look, he's wearing
heart
white on the cover.
heart ripped out. Homebroad just makes his own circulatory system using the iron in his blood. Like, you know, whenever you think about how crazy powerful Magneto is, like he always just one-ups himself.
I started respecting Magneto during the Cullen. I mean, this is fairly recently, so bear with me here. The Cullen Bunn is solo book that they did right around last days of right before Secret Empire, and then right after Secret Empire or whatever.
After Secret Empire, around Secret Empire,
Secret Empire, Secret War, yeah.
Wars,
and there's a scene in there where he's torturing somebody for information, and he uses a paper clip and he puts it in their skin and drives it all the way up there. I was like, all right, Magneto, fucking, I knew you were crazy. I knew you could, like, because Wolverine's made of metal. I knew you could fuck him up, but like, I would fold. Magneto would come up to me. I'd be like, don't do the paperclip thing. Whatever you need to know, man.
I'll tell you.
Like, no. But if he can control the iron in his blood, he can control the iron in other people's blood. That's core of bloodbending shit right there.
Yes.
Magneto, you scary. I ain't fucking with Magneto. No, thank you.
But yes, ramifications that Uranus does come back later on. He's actually in the Fall of X books.
Oh, very cool.
Yes. Yeah, that's pretty much it for AXE.
Yeah, AXE. Woo! Riding the hype train. Exterminators. Leah Williams comes along with Carlos Gomez to bring Laura Kinney, Boom Boom, Jubilee, and Dazzler to fight some vampires and some dude who likes piss, question mark. It's unclear. Crazy grindhouse nonsense, and there's titties. That's all this book is. Just
And
crazy nonsense and titties. That's, I mean,
so, yes, Hunter 100% right. This book is just titties and fucking grindhouse nonsense.
not
Crazy
It was
grinder house
derogatory. Like,
knives.
this is like Leah Williams pitched it as titties. So
so
we're here.
actually this was actually a Jerry Duggan book first.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
So he wanted to do a story called Dazzler Vampire Slayer.
Yeah, that one issue
Um,
with Dazzler Blood Hunt. I mean, what?
I mean, yeah. He wanted to do Dazzler Vampire Hunter series, a mini series. And then he got promoted to doing X-Men. And Leah Williams was like, I like that idea. Can I do this? And he's like, sure, I don't have time. And yeah, and then she wrote it as a X Grindhouse book, which they actually call it that in the Marvel editorial series. This was actually written while Hickman was still in charge of the X-Men house at the time. And yeah, it was this is kind of what happened to Laura after the whole stuff with Talon and X-Men. It is supposed to be really it's surface level story that it is titties and vampires and grindhouse nonsense, but really it's supposed to be about lost women that don't know what to do with their lives now. Like you have Dazzler, who feels like she's too old and doesn't fit in anymore with
Taylor
being
Swift.
X-Men. Well, that's later on. She doesn't feel like she fits in anymore. Jubilee is a mom, and she also just lost a son, who's left behind in Knights of X.
Big Dragon.
Um, Laura, who has just left the X Men because she is an older version of her, is still around, is now around, and Boo Boom, who is forever the perpetual teenager, mentally. They are
She's
kind of all
everybody's favorite wine ant.
yeah,
Yeah, she
yeah.
really is.
Um,
Like I aspire to be Boom Boom one day.
Yeah, I started vibing with Boom Boom during the 2019 X Force run, right in between the Krakoan era and whatever Cable was doing. It was Kid Cable and Boom Boom was like, "I have to babysit you because you're a child," and Cable's like, "What?" I was like, "I'm still Cable," and she's like, "I'm here though." So Boom Boom was around in that one. That was fun.
But that's what this book is. It's like these lost women finding each other. But they are all so written out of character, which is why I hate this book.
I mean, I
They
would say Boom
they
Boom is
are
the only one in
very.
character.
She's the only one in character.
That's
The
because
fact
Boom Boom is just a
that's
crazy
fine because
bitch.
they appear at one point in the book. They get teleported from the Quiet Council, all wearing weird Halloween costumes that they had to wear at one point, and like talking about how fat someone's ass looks
Yeah,
in the
they literally
thing.
say dump truck ass.
I mean, yeah, they do. They do. And they say it's too Dazzler. Um, and like
And there's a boob uppercut as well.
there's a
Boom Boom
whole
punches
thing,
somebody's titties.
dude. There's a whole scene of them,
I mean,
specifically the four of them talking the way they're talking about stuff in front of the Quiet Council.
Oh
It's
yeah, it
out of
seemed very
character.
unprofessional.
It's
Like,
so out of character. Not for Boom Boom. That's fine. That's the
oh, yeah.
nonsense she would actually say.
Jubilee.
But Jubilee, who's been an
Hey,
X-Men forever, not even because at this point she's Mom Jubilee,
Jubilee
not
was a
Laura.
teacher before this during
Yeah,
Generation
Laura.
X.
Laura never talks like that.
Yeah.
Ever.
You could say she was drunk, but the Wolverines don't get drunk. All right,
Right. And then
yeah,
Dazzler does it. And like
they sober up too quick.
it's a fun story, but it's almost feels like you're reading a what if or elseworld story because they are so out of character. All of them.
It feels
All
like a
of them.
pre-Krakoa book and also a
Yes.
post-Krakoa book at the same time.
Because
it's kind
they
of
are
interesting
written out of
because
character. Go ahead, Jeff. Sorry.
oh no, it's fine. I think it's interesting because I mean I haven't read it, but now I'm kind of really want to read it just to see how it goes.
It's only one
but
trade.
Morbidly intrigued.
I am because it's kind of just like okay, whenever I feel like a writer sort of takes liberties with characters or breaks them out of their normal mundane shell, it's usually because they haven't been like doing anything and you want to like try them on a new identity. Like let's
No.
try it out. And
It's so
sometimes
bad.
it sticks, like,
Deadpool.
like
Deadpool.
Deadpool. I mean, I would even say Mohawk Storm era, like
Yeah.
from early on, where she was
Mhm.
completely written out of character due to trauma. But
But it was due to trauma. Like, at least that makes sense. This
It's due
is
to trauma, not due to titties.
I mean,
Yeah.
in all fairness, what's more traumatic than Dazzler being on a team and never being important ever,
Boom
despite being one
Boom.
of the most powerful characters?
I know.
She
Boom
was
Boom.
literally given a role to be a shield member only to just serve as like Mystique's undercover identity. Like literally, first moment she was there, she gets knocked out. Like
Happens. Boom Boom is so much a Leah Williams self insert that that picture that Hunter puts up on the screen is literally a dress that Leah Williams wore down to the pose and outfit that she does because it's on her Instagram. And I'm like,
I
that's
don't know if it's the
literally
exact pose, but she wore the same outfit. Yeah.
but
yeah.
in
Well,
all fairness, that's typical Boom Boom though. Like I
and
couldn't
yes, I'm not
imagine that
against that.
outside of her.
No, because Boom was the only one written in character.
Well,
Everyone
and
else is
in all fairness, like X-23 going through like a crisis because like oh, an older version of me is here now and is on the X team, and Wolverine is doing his own awesome shit. Where does Laura Kinney fit in?
I know. But I think the problem with this is like none of them feel like some of the stuff Dazzler says she plays like the mom role in the group, which is fine. Um, but even Jubilee, even the stuff she says, she's written almost it very well in character. Besides the piss fetish thing and like the dump truck ass shit and like
Yeah,
some weird.
Jubilee's the one who describes the dump truck ass, I believe. And I was like, it's not a very Jubilee thing to say.
No,
Okay.
that's a Boom Boom thing to say.
Yeah, I mean, I could be wrong. Could have been Boom Boom. I've only read this series once while it was coming out, and I remember going, "All right."
Like this is a line that they put in there. In fact, they had to fight. Not they had to fight. They put it in the script about the line. So we keep talking about the piss fest thing. So what happens is this: they're locked up in a roller rink or some dumb shit. A lot of the book is happenstance. So they are locked away. They then are like because they have to change out of their like damaged uniforms. They want to put on something else, and there's like a whole. Jubilee says she has to use the bathroom,
Yeah, but the
and
bad guy's like, "You're not able to come out of. I'm not going to get fooled by this. You're not coming out of the cage. Just go right here. It's fine."
yeah, and they're like, oh well, he has a piss fetish. Oh, I know because the vampire's also Dazzler's ex boyfriend, and like they talk about him having a piss fetish, and like so Leah Williams didn't know it was going through editorial, and oh Hunter's camera froze, so now he has that weird look on his face. Fantastic. So you couldn't get frozen at a better time. Um. Oh no, there you are. You're moving. Cool. So you don't have that weird look on your face with your lips like.
I'm just waiting for everything to load. My Wi-Fi is like eating itself. I don't
I
know.
was about to say he's just taking micro naps, and so we just
No.
think he's
I'm
frozen.
just taking it. I'm just taking little baby naps.
But yeah, no, like they were waiting for that line to get through, and that's Tom Brevoort, Justin Block,
Justin White,
Justin White.
Jordan,
Thank you,
Jordan White,
Jordan
Jordan
White,
White,
Jordan White.
White.
Oh my
We found
god,
it. We got it. We got it.
we got
Jordan
it
White.
there. Your texter was like, yeah, we got through, and we're like, okay, but yeah, it's everyone should read Exterminators. It's not that it's like a great book; it's just a fun, stupid book. It's a way to get your mind off some shit. It's a good it's a good kind of a moosh boosh before we get into the
Yeah, like
hell
honestly,
gate.
if it wasn't during the Krakoan era of storytelling, like I said, it feels like a before and
Yeah,
after Krakoan book. Like if
yeah.
you read this separated from everything, it's a nice just X-Men grindhouse story because you don't get
Mhm.
many of those unless you're reading Wolverine or something. So, it is a cool
True.
standalone, but when you read it in this encompassing, almost too serious era, it just feels so out of place. And I get that's what it was meant to be, but I just think it was executed in a weird way.
Yeah.
And I think, you take it from the perspective of like the Krakoan age where all of this shit is going down in all of these books. And I think it just reads the wrong way because it's not within the dramatic sphere. And it's kind of nice to have something that's just outside of it, where it's like, okay, they're just doing random shit, talking random shit, being random. Like, I could appreciate that considering everything else is like Krakoa.
Like geopolitics and Mars
Yeah.
nonsense.
Yeah. It's
Come on,
nice to
man.
just have some good old fashioned, like, we're stuck in a jail
Good
talking
old
about
fashioned
a
TNA.
vampires. Yeah.
Good old fashioned comic book TNA. Back to the Bushima era. All right, but let's move on. We can't keep drolling on. We're on to the mini series. We're wrapping up. We're getting closer to the end. I guess Iron Man wasn't here yet, but we'll get there. But yeah, we got some mini series to wrap up. Dark Web happens here. It's by Duggan and Noto. So usually, when there's an X-Men crossover, Jerry Duggan, being the main X-Men writer, writes the other ones. He did the and with Noto too, did Devil's Reign, did Dark Web. Madeline and Chasm are baddies, not collected separately. You can only get it collected in the Dark Web soft and now coming soon hardcover. Bishop War College. It was written by Jay Holton and Sean Damian Hill. What is this? I'm still confused. Rogan Gambit Power Play came out. This was Stephanie Phillips jumping into Krakoa for the first and I believe only time, besides some unlimited stuff near the end. Mommy Issues. This is what this one was about. And then New Mutants Lethal Legion, Charlie Jane Anders, and Enid Balam and Ask. That person.
Yeah, we will leave that blank because we know a side story. Yes,
but with Bishop War College, let's start there because Dark Web is just Dark Web.
Well, also Dark Web.
Dark Web is funny. They have the puppies thing. That's pretty good in Dark Web.
So Dark Web is a retelling of Inferno through the eyes of Jim Zub during the current run of Spider-Man, in which Chasm and Madeline, Zeb Wells, have decided to go after the people that have wronged them. Chasm being Chasm, Madeline being the Queen of Limbo. The end math being that there is a Limbo embassy now on Earth. Madeline has all the memories of Cable being raised by Jean, and she's able to kind of like get along with Jean and be a member of the X-Men. Havoc then moves in with her at the embassy. Bishop War College is a fallout. Bishop is a captain trying to lead the what might be considered the next era of captains.
Yeah, so like, what is like? Does he get trapped in another universe? That
I will get
Bishop?
there.
Is he stuck in his own mind? What is going on?
I'll get there.
When I saw this book coming out, I was like, this can't be a Krakoa book, and they're like, it's canon to Krakoa, and I was like, what are you talking about?
It is. So what the story is, it's Bishop training the next generation of captains. Where he then fights against the Strucker twins, these neo-Nazi incest weirdos, children of Baron von Strucker. He is then shunted to a different reality where all the X-Men are black.
I thought they were just all bishops.
Nope, they're all just black.
No, they're all
black.
They're all one of us.
Okay. Not to say they all look the same. Okay.
No, it really is.
Not to say that.
It really is an Earth where they all are black.
Uncancel myself real quick.
While the other
did the cover for it, and I hated that.
Yeah. So. While the other team, his students are fighting against the Strucker twins and trying to get him back. Rogan Gambit Power Play is just a secret side mission that will actually tie in directly. It's a very actually important series if you're reading the Fall of X, because it explains what the hell Manifold is doing as Bishop and Gambit go on a mission because of destiny. And then New Mutants Lethal Legion is the final culmination of the Shadow King story, and also sets up the new kids during that era. Yeah, that's pretty much it for this 4 miniseries.
Yeah, not a lot to go.
I like Dark Web.
Yeah, Dark Web, all in all, not as bad as people say it was in comparison to some other Spider-Man events. Justin, did you read any of these?
I definitely read a bit of Dark Web, and I definitely read Lethal Legion. Dark Web, I mean, I am not a crazy Spider-Man fan. I know
no one is.
Well, the only thing that I remember from the Dark Web X-Men book was when Madeline had Cyclops and Havoc tied up and basically just like prisoner, and the way to stop Cyclops from opening his eyes is she tied puppies to like this baby conveyor that would swing around, so if he opened his eyes he would laser puppies. I thought that was hilarious. That's Jerry Duggan's comedy right there.
Yeah,
he's funnier than he should be for an X-Men writer.
a lot of this issue was a lot of thing with Dark Web. It is a retelling of Inferno, with just a Spider-Man coding. The thing is, the X-Men tie-in part is actually important to the X-Men stuff
Oh
because
yeah,
it
it's like
is,
exclusively X-Men related too.
yeah, it is the setup of
It's barely
why,
Dark Web.
and it is kind of like, hey, why does Madeline feel wrong? Because she doesn't have her memories,
Yeah, they
and
take this idea and put it into X-Men 97. A
Yeah, they
yeah,
lot of the
do.
more recent Madeline storylines they threw into X-Men 97 because Madeline doesn't have a lot going on half the time. She
it's very
pops up,
true.
she sucks, and then she leaves.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
Not she sucks in a bad way. She sucks like she sucks towards the team like she's an ass. She makes a
yeah.
problem. Like, oh, there
That's
she
the
is.
whole thing. Is she usually just shows up and is kind of just like, I'm angry about something, and they're all just like, oh
We
God,
know.
Maddie, go away.
It's
We
like
got
when
other things
Carnage
that we're
shows
dealing
up in
with.
Spider-Man stories. Whenever Carnage pops up, it's just like, serial killer's here again. Let's handle him for a week, and then Carnage leaves, and they're like, all right, 2 years later, oh, there he is.
And that's the thing. Like, I think the Dark Web story of the four, I think is the more important one. I mean, Rogue Garrett is pretty important. But this is the one that has the most lasting effects that leads into another miniseries, like we will talk about in a little bit. Um, yeah, the rest are kind of just like, yeah, Rogue Garrett power play, explain where Manifold is and why he's missing after Sword. I don't know what Bishop War College ends on. It's besides Bishop going, there's black people out there that should be a better mutant, and Lethal Legion is whatever.
Yeah.
What is more than whatever? I mean, it is not.
Okay, you read Lethal Legion. You explain to me.
So, my understanding of Lethal Legion is kind of just like a return to the basics, especially when it comes to like the Shadow King. So, I really enjoyed that particular aspect of it. Trying to remember a lot of it because it was a while ago that I
I'm looking
didn't
it up
read
right
it.
now. Oh, this is the one where the kids have to break into like Count Nefarious team
Oh,
up
yes,
nonsense.
yes. Hold
That's
on.
why I don't
But
like this book. It's so stupid. It's them like doing Ocean 11 and trying to break into some dumb stuff, and like it's very whatever.
But you see, this is where I kind of liked it because there were times where, like, when you were reading other X books, it definitely got just like a lot. Like, you
Oh
got
yeah,
lost in the
100%.
sauce. So I kind of liked this New Mutants one, despite the fact that I was still kind of becoming more accustomed to like the New Mutants. I thought
Oh,
this was,
James, is this Escapade or Escapade or whatever she's called?
Which one?
yeah, this is the
Yeah,
That
the
one
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 that,
before,
here.
and yes,
yeah, the
Yeah,
one that can
they're
like
in.
switch minds and stuff.
Yeah, they're in the new Avengers Academy book
yes.
I'm reading on Marvel Unlimited, which is awesome, by the way. Please print it. Kid Juggernaut is dope as hell.
But it was
Sorry,
just a
tangent.
nice like tear away from that where they were just like, well, we're bored because her whole thing was that like her and her best friend from before wanted to be like super villains, and they've always wanted to do something like crazy, and so she convinces Martha to like go and steal something from Count Nefaria.
Well, they also
Hell yeah.
like put all the new clothes that they take from like the Avengers Vault, the X Men Vault. And it's like all the villain gear. They all take on new identities to be villains to break into stupid. It's fun.
It's
Again, very much
very fun book. That's why I was
It
like,
very
feels
much
like a why is
informative.
this in the Krakoan era? It just feels
Yes,
like it was a book that was set that was supposed to be put in before or after, but then just got mixed up.
but then you also have to keep in mind that they're kids. Like
and
it's
that's
not
what it
like
is. It's
yeah, it's not like it fits to me in Krakoan society
yes,
because the whole focus has been on the adults and
Mhm.
all the political and like nonsense that the adults get into. So it's nice to see outside of like the great pretender boo hiss, like
I love it.
kids just getting up to some random kid nonsense.
And that's what it is. It's very much like when we talked about Exterminators. It's meant to be the fun book. That's the breakaway, and it's also supposed to set up a new generation of New Mutants because it's the evolution of the other characters that exist on Krakoa.
Yeah, and do we have a New
Um,
Mutants book announced in From the Ashes yet?
no.
So
No,
this will
not yet.
probably not this team specifically, but like this kind of energy coming out of this ending bit for the New Mutants will probably lead into the next team.
So,
Which is kind of a shame because it gives me like Power Pack vibes. Like
ugh, only you. Moving along.
Let's keep it going. We got too much to do. One shots during the era. We got two.
Yes.
Nyla Rose and Steve Orlando with David Cutler on the Thunderbird one. John Proudstar's back, and then they throw him on Araco, and then Marvel Unlimited is where he gets his main little story. You're supposed to read this, then the Unlimited, then X-Men Red.
Yeah.
And then Duggan and Chris Anka handle this year's Hellfire Gala with Russell Dodderman and Matteo Loli, as well as some more Unlimited stuff. This one is dubbed Hellfire Gala Immortal.
Yes. Which there was this Hellfire Gala, what, 3 or 2? 3.
Two. I think. I don't know.
What the
This
hell?
is where the X vote happens. Magic gets to be on the X-Men. That's what this one is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Oh yeah, this is right before during X-Men. This is prelude. Yeah.
Here we go.
Let's go.
The big finale to the Destiny of X line. An event hyped, overhyped, I would say. Gillen and Lucas Wernick are back, continuing their Immortal X-Men team up to continue their sinister plot and jump into the future with all the creative guys that were doing Legion of X and X-Men Red: Ewing, Spurrier, Medina, Andrea DeVito, Alessandro Vitti, Lorenzo Temeda, and Philip Sevi. Sinister really just fucks everything up, and it's up to Super Old Storm to save the day.
Pretty much.
I mean,
That's this plot.
that's my recap, really.
So
James, this is your opus. This is your
yes,
event.
it is. So Sinister is the culmination of Sinister's storyline that's been going on since the beginning with him creating the Chimeras. It opens up with him actually in Immortal X-Men. It is the Sinister. I was right. Xavier is a Sinister clone, and no one believes me, and I have been saying that forever. It is because Sinister is the one that created all the backup DNAs for Krakoa. What happens, and you see as part of his takeover, is that one, he has to eliminate the Quiet Council, and in order to do so, he sacrificed himself in order to kill them, and by killing them, resurrects them as Sinister clones. They all have the Age of the Diamond the Age of the Red Diamond begins. And that's the start of Sinister, which is Immortal X-Men. Immortal X-Men becomes Immoral X-Men, which is the first 10 years of Sinister's reign as the X-Men. You find out that his Moira engine has been stolen. He has been taking clone buys of Moira McTaggart, building them and destroying them every time he tries to do a plan.
Oh yeah, it's like a reset point. It's funny.
Yep.
Yeah.
As like save points. It's been stolen, and because it's stolen, he cannot reset this timeline in which he is kind of being pushed out of his own dark, sinister, quiet council. All the X-Men are corrupted. The 3 books, Immortal X-Men, where Legion of X and X-Men Red become Storm and the Brotherhood. Immoral X-Men, and I forgot Nightcrawlers. Where X becomes Nightcrawlers. Legion of X becomes Nightcrawlers. Each one dealing with 10 years, 100 years, and 1,000 years in the timeline during each era, explaining kind of what happens now that Sinister has taken over and what happens now that mutants have taken over, but they're all corrupted. It's a great idea. It's almost very similar to Age of Apocalypse in its sense. Originally, it was supposed to be a line-wide book encompassing Wolverine, X-Force, and the other ongoing titles of time, but Gillen and the other writers, Ewing and Spurrier, decided to only be the 3 books. So it wouldn't interfere with other things like X-Men and Wolverine and X-Force because
They also released in reading order.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's a wonderful story. It is the player of Mother Righteous and her magic people trying to gain a bunch of the arcana in order to reverse time. It is the War of the Four Sinisters also. This is also the push of what a domain is, which plays into the ending piece. And this was supposed to be one of Hickman's big books, but because he left early, this is not as big as it was supposed to be. And because of that, things that plotlines that happen here do play out towards the end of Fall of X, but are very misread and misunderstood. It's also, you find out that one of the Sinisters wins at the end of all time, and Sinister can't reset the timeline. Also, Rasputin 4 is brought to the main timeline at the end of this.
Yeah, because they were cool enough during Hoxpox that they were like, Let's bring him back just for fun.
Well, no, well, because Sinister creates her during the rise of the Chimera
Mhm.
era during Sins of Sinister. Mother Righteous brings her over in the main time period because she's also existing in the main 616 universe. In order to punish Sinister because she takes a version of Rasputin who was betrayed by Sinister in 1,000 years, and that's why it's really cool.
And it's interesting because what I think sets them apart though, I definitely disagree with clones. I feel like they weren't sinister clones
Oh
because
no,
he does this definitely way, way back in X-Men Legacy, where
hmm
he first inserts his DNA into Charles, into Juggernaut, into
nope.
some
Please
random.
rephrase that
He
completely.
inserts his DNA.
I
Oh
mean,
no, I froze. Fuck me, bro. That's a
I
good one. That's a
mean,
good one.
that is a really good freeze point. But
Oh man.
I mean, it's literally what he does though.
Yeah,
But
it is.
and so you kind of see from there that Sinister is able to influence you, and this is why it
Yes.
goes off the rails, is
Yes.
because he's not really able to fully take control of any of them, but he just influences them to go into their more darker personas.
Yep.
And that's why you then get the whole development of like the rise of the red queen, and like all of these different aspects that become just really agreed very corrupted versions of themselves, arguably. um
They are. It's amazing.
it definitely is great. Like, it's a great read, and I mean, obviously Storm saves the day, so I'm always on board with that.
It really is a cool story. Like when you are reading Immoral, Nightcrawlers, and Brotherhood, Storm the Brotherhood, it is really cool to take to see kind of like alternate what if. This is just a kind of long what if version of those three books, and if Sinister won, because at the end of it, it does go all the way back to Immortal to be like, oh wait, we stopped Sinister now. Now the timeline will go forward. And he doesn't have his mortar machine anymore to fix it. And oh my god, your face is wild on there.
I'm telling you, man,
Um,
I froze. It froze really bad.
and
But dude, I strongly disagree with your love of this. I hated Sins of Sinister.
well,
I was hyped. I
Really?
was so hyped for Sins of Sinister because I was like, sweet, finally, the machinations and the undertones of Sinister, starting from, remember those babies that he had? Yeah, this wasn't about them. Like we had so much Sinister buildup, and then they're just like, turns out he's just been cheating like Sephiroth in the new Final Fantasy games. He's just been cheating every time he loses, but eventually he wins. But turns out, nah, because Sinister sucks. He even sabotages himself in some capacity. But
yeah,
I hated the future I hated it because at the end of the day, they wrap it up to where it meant no, you don't have to read this.
it's true.
You don't have
I
to
mean,
read this at
theoretically,
all.
yeah. It's well, and
I
that's the
hated the
consequence.
Nightcrawlers like all killing themselves on a big stupid orb. I was like,
Yep.
this is the stupidest plot line. Why are they doing this? It's not doing anything.
Well, that's
It
always going to
drove
be
me
a
up a
consequence.
wall reading the Nightcrawlers books. I was like, what the fuck am I reading? Storm
And
and
it's always
Brotherhood
going to
was
be.
insane. How is Storm alive? What? If she's the master of elements on like weather on Earth, she's in space. How is she living to be like 10 million years old? What kind of drugs do they have her on that? I just, dude, I hated this book. I hated this book. It was.
I mean, but at the end of the day, it's always going to be a consequence of any kind of time travel esque book that, like,
Yeah,
sometimes you're going to go on an adventure and it's going to mean nothing because you're going to go back to the beginning and fix it.
yeah, and that's exactly what this is. It was supposed to be their version of AOA, with the fallout being Rasputin 4 is now in the main timeline, and Sinister is now off the Quiet Council and known to be a bad guy. And there's no more Moira engine, so there's no more clones of Moira anymore running around.
Yeah, no more nonsense to just get them over. But let's keep the train moving. Sins of Sinister. What a place to be. But now we got before the fall. Most of these are collected in individual, not individuals. Most of them are collected in trades. I just put them all together. Apocalypse returns. 4 Sinisters plot their next move, and deadly mutant attacks in a small town. Can Krakoa, the mutant sovereign nation, lasts forever. I just copied and pasted whatever Marvel.com said. Spurrier, Orlando, Ewing, Gillen are the writers, with Noto, Valentina Pinti, Luca Pizzari, and Paco Medina, respectively, on these storylines. I read
I'll
all
run
of
through
them,
the
but I
entire thing.
only cared about Sinister 4.
Yes, it's the only one that matters. So I'll run through all of them. Sons of X is kind of supposed to be an end cap to Legion of X, having Mother Righteous versus Legion. It's what happens to Demon Nightcrawler. It's to fix him back to being normal, to lead into Uncanny Spider-Man. Mutant First Strike is to kind of show humans. We're supposed to show the human side of Krakoa and the war, as humans haven't really interacted with X-Men really, besides the X-Men book, and show that, oh hey, what will happen if there's a mutant catastrophe? How fast can Orcus turn it around? And that was the first building blocks of Orcus' strike. Heralds of Apocalypse was a fallout of X's Swords with the return of Apocalypse and the children of Araco coming back forward. And then you have Sinister 4, which is the culmination of the 4 Sinisters post Sins of Sinister teaming up and kind of laying their groundwork. Going forward, you find out that Mother Righteous is actually a clone of Rebecca, Sinister's wife. You have Stella Orbis and Dr. Stasis playing their you setting up their plans for what it means to be a Dominion. But really,
Dr.
it is
Stasis was the big main bad guy from the Jerry Duggan X-Men. He was teaming up with MODOK and Orchis to do shenanigans.
Yes, it is really a lot of this book. Sinister 4 is the setup for Mother Righteous
fall.
and it's Mother Righteous and Sinister. Is it Sinister or Dr. Stasis? I think it's Sinister. No, it's her. It's her, Dr. Stasis, setting up Orcus, and then it's like Stella and Sinister are like, oh hey, we're still around. Those are the 4.
Yeah. Let's get on to the expanded reading section of this. This is quick. This is the Brood crossover that happened with the X-Men Revenge of the Brood Part 1 and 2, along with X-Men collected in Volume 4. I said omnibus ? These are only collected in 3 individual trades. Apparently, they are going to be collected as Revenge of the Brood, as like a collected 3 volume omnibus, but it's not out yet. I wanted to include the Marvel Voices Iceman storyline because I thought it was the first big storyline they did through X-Men Unlimited, Marvel stuff. Also had our boy Luciano Vecchio on there. Iceman explores his Omega status and reconnects with friends. The friend is I put friends down, but it's like his old partner from the Cena Grace book, I believe.
Okay.
Then there was a one-shot. Well, the series was there, but it was only one that connected with the X-Men. It's by Jody Hazard and Z. Carlos. Kamala teams up with X-Men before ASM 25 Fallen Friend. This is like the direct lead into this issue. This story happens, this little mini volume. Then she dies, and then it's the Fall of X nonsense. And then Moon Girl also had one of these as well for some reason with Mahalia Mashigo and David Cutler on there. Lunella teams up with the X-Men to fight the High Evolutionary.
Yep, and those are kind of also self-explanatory. The Brood story actually goes on with the X-Men one we talked about it before. It's cool. It's just them fighting the Brood. You end it with Brood being the king of the Brood. The Kamala one is just Kamala being Kamala, and it's supposed to kind of soft pitch her being a mutant. And Moon Girl X-Men is just because Moon Girl TV show was out.
Try to be popular. Here we go. The next era. Here we go, baby. The Fall of X. Shit gets real during this arc, dude. Final phase in the Krakoan age of the X-Men. This phase started with the third Hellfire Gala Fall of X and culminated in dual interconnected miniseries Fall of the House and Rise of the Powers of X. The final issue was X-Men 35 or Legacy Uncanny 700. There's so much going on with this one. This was bloated only because they were trying to look at all those lines.
So
So here we go. Hellfire Gala was the start. Usually they end some of the stuff, but this one was a start. This one had Duggan again writing it, but with all the artists: Cooper Vecchio, Lolly Dodderman, Pina Silva, Casara, Chris Anka, and Pepe Larraz. New X vote. Everyone dies, well, a lot of people, including most of the humans. Crazy book all in all. This was an insane read.
Yeah, it is.
So much
It
happens in this book.
was.
It's crazy.
So what's crazy
No
about this?
breathing here.
There's none. So it sets up the new X-Men team.
My boy's
which
got a bow tie down here. Look at that. Ooh.
it sets up the new X-Men team, which it doesn't matter because they all
They all die.
they die immediately.
Yeah.
It
Only
is
Juggernaut and Firestar don't die on the X-Men. Everyone
Yes.
else gets iced.
Jean dies. Her final
Yet
death throes.
again.
Yes, her
Yeah,
final
Jean always dies.
her final death throes.
That's her move.
She programs Firestar to be a hidden mole and brainwashes Doctor Stasis to believing that Firestar is actually a traitor to the X-Men.
Yeah, most of that story takes place on Marvel Unlimited, but it's very good.
Yes. Juggernaut is captured by Firestar and
Same with
Orcus.
Cyclops.
Nimrod shows up and kills a bunch of people. Xavier is forced to push people through Krakoan Gate, not knowing where they'll end up, killing some of the X-Men, and we'll talk about what happens to some of these X-Men going forward. Cyclops is captured and placed in Orcus custody, and the rest of the mutants that do survive using the triangle resist technique, a thing we've never heard of until now.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool.
We love retcons, but it's a very cool retcon.
They are hidden underground with Emma, and Emma takes the lead role of creating the X-Men. That's Hellfire Gala, guys. Go read it. It's fantastic.
X-Men is
Yeah,
crazy.
it was
bonkers.
really good. And, it was so funny because I was like, all right, at this point,
Kamala gets revived right at the beginning of this, and she's like, "Oh my god, this island is so cool! Oh my god, what happened?"
it's like, welcome to being a mutant.
Yes,
buddy.
Kamala's like
Also-
welcomed into this like paradise, and then literally like 6 hours later, she's like, "Fuck, dude, come on."
Exactly. As the guys bring up, this is also the issue where we are introduced as Miss Marvel as a mutant, which doesn't really matter anymore. But whatever, we'll talk about that.
We'll get there. It's in here.
I mean, it was inconsequential, but I really did like the introduction of the red triangle defense. I thought that was a really, really cool idea, considering I was like, okay, at this point, they have to have something against Xavier. Like,
I know.
if they haven't built any kind of defense against him, they're idiots.
It's got to be Emma, too. Emma's like, we always got contingencies.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, then we'll move on.
Yeah, X-Men 25, technically to 35, but it'll have its own slide, so till 34. Volumes 5 and 6, there was a placeholder cover without the same little colored banner. There's a few of them in here. Duggan and Co. deal with the fallout of the Hellfire Gala and try to survive while being hunted by the world. Insane final arcs to wrap up Fox Rocks.
Yeah,
The acronym for that one, by the way, if y'all didn't know. Follow the House of X.
This is where you see Dr. Doom's team of mutants as he's taking Lotberry mutants to make them his own team of X-Men. You have an underground version of X-Men, which Kitty drops the name Red Queen and goes back to Shadowcat as she killed a bunch of members of Orcus at the end of she's back to Ninja More.
She also beats up Firestar for being a traitor, and Firestar's like, "Wait, I'm on your team," and she goes, "Well," and she keeps hitting her in the face. It's awesome.
Yes. You have Talon and Sync also on this team, not pictured here. Wolverine jumping between books because he's one of the only family members left. And who else is on the team? Sync, Firestar, not really.
Juggernaut.
Cyclops. No, Juggernaut and Cyclops are still captured at this point. But for this arc purposes, Juggernaut is
for this one, for this one.
Yeah, and
Cyclops gets freed here.
Right, and Cyclops is still in Orcus custody, as they convince Nimrod that he's an asshole.
Basically.
Yeah, that's the run back, and before we get to 35, which is its own thing.
Yeah. Let's keep going. Hot on the trails. Immortal X-Men 14 to 18. Gillen and Wernick with Medina and Reap, bringing the Quiet Council saga to a close, kind of. We'll get there. Quiet Council is still in utter shambles. Read this before you read Uncanny 35 and 700. Apocalypse is back, and it kind of sets up his mindset for the final issue and what his actions are, if you're unaware. When you read that issue, you're like, whoa, read this.
So spinning out of the Horseman of Apocalypse, leading into Immortal X-Men Herald's Apocalypse, leading into Immortal X-Men 14 through 18. Apocalypse takes center stage as he feels that mutant kind has failed. This is starting in the fall, during the Orcus invasion attack, and he wants to set up a new kind of Araco. He wants to reclaim Araco in his image, but needs mutants to do so. So he's back to being self-serving Apocalypse as he tries to take over Mars on his own. The Quiet Council, on the other hand, because this book becomes something else towards the very end, the Quiet Council is in shambles still from not only Sins of Sinister, but also from the Hellfire Gala, as most of the Quiet Council is locked away. This book also will follow what happens to the members of the Five. And what happened to those
Yeah,
guys
that leads
there.
into the next bit of it as well.
Yes.
Yeah. The Five play a big role near the end of the Immortal X-Men. Justin, did you read this one?
I definitely did. Yeah, that pretty much summed it up. I mean,
Okay. I want to make sure you get to
I
speak.
was like, no, I was like, yeah, that really just wrapped up Immortal X-Men.
Yeah.
There's nothing much we could talk about because it will bleed into another book we will talk about.
Rock
Yeah,
and
that's I was
roll.
waiting for that.
X-Men Red. Let's finish up Al Ewing, this time with Yolandri Sinar. Finish up their Mars adventures. Leads into the resurrection of Magneto. That's all I have for this. I didn't read
All right,
X-Men Red.
so X-Men
Just a
Red
quickie
14 through
before the
18.
big.
Yeah, so 14 through 18 is a fallout. It's exactly a fallout not only from Sinister, but also from the Hellfire Galar, as Araco goes to war with Genesis, who is Apocalypse's wife, who is being manipulated by Orcus as she tries to take over Mars, while Apocalypse is also kind of hiding somewhere on Mars. This is the full introduction of Nova as a member of the Brotherhood, and as Storm and Ironfire and all the other Akari make their final stand against Genesis. This is kind of the intergalactic story that Ali has been building up, especially with um, uh, Genesis and her return, with Orcus and Orcus's members on Mars, and kind of what Sword has been talking about. You see some characters from Sword also on the team. It is the final bit of Ewing's story here, leading
Yeah,
into Resurrection
and
Magneto, which is the whole thing.
which definitely, I thought it was that sort of like mask thingy that was controlling Genesis at that point.
Annihilation, yeah. It's not.
Yeah.
They're not using Annihilation. Like Orcus is using Annihilation, not Genesis. Like she's not wearing it herself.
No, I know because she has it on her staff, but I thought that was like the
Yes.
influencing
Yeah,
factor on the.
yes, it's still Annihilation doing it, but it's like Orcus was the ones who pulled her out of that dimension that she was in
Oh
with Apocalypse,
yeah.
and like manipulated her to go like, "Hey, look at what they did to Araco while you were gone." And I just want to see two queens fight. That's what this whole thing was.
Yas,
yeah.
queen.
Hell yeah. We can all agree on that. There we go.
Finally, we've been
Invincible
prancing
Iron
around.
Man. He's officially here forever and ever. Jerry Duggan with his Iron Man artist Juan Fergari bring Tony Stark to Krakoa, starting officially with his marriage to Emma Frost. Is this cool? This seems cool.
Yes.
Love the suit he's got. Look how cool this fucking suit is. I want a toy so bad. Tony becomes the most relatable character of 2023. Tony like me for real, for real. I mean, come on.
No. So again, it's one of those books. Just like we never brought up the slide for Weapons of Vengeance. Did you not have one?
It's here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Just like any other writer, a lot of times what other book they're writing, they'll tie it into another book. So this actually fits well. Jerry Duggan's writing X-Men, especially for the fall of X.
Yeah, because during the Iron Man book, this guy comes in. He's got pink skin. He's
Phaelon.
He's part of whatever's been
Orcus.
fucking with Orcus. So he makes it's a cool way to tie Iron Man into this by having the Sentinels being built by Orcus, but that's Stark tech from the purchase that was like all these.
So everything. So what happened was,
I'm not a big Iron Man guy. I'm actually an Iron Man hater. So all I know is what I read really quick.
Yeah. So Phaelon is a millionaire that was supposed to be the first human to be on Mars, to live on Mars. In fact, so much so. Yes, so much so that's why he terraformed his he engineers his entire body to live on Mars.
He's like Elon Musk, but like
yes, that's what the joke's supposed to be. Yes. but because the mutants beat him to it, he has this hatred for mutants. In doing so, he bought out Stark Tech and Stark Corporation in order to use his technology to build Sentinels. Leaving Tony penniless and broke, he then marries Emma because they both have a common enemy in Phelan and Orcus.
And also, they kind of do like each other. Like
They
it
have
starts
a
off as
very
a marriage of convenience, but they got a really good rapport.
yes,
And I
because they
hope that they
have
continue at least a friendship going forward.
they do so issue 20 as of recording still has not come out yet.
Yeah, I just know it's tied to this. That's
But
why I
yes.
put it in there.
No, I know.
And
That's
it's
why you did it.
collected in this trade.
But also it is the setup of what happens. Like, so Tony is using one as an ally of the X-Men. He uses technology to help the X-Men to fight against August. Two, to get away to go against Phelan, and the arch rival in Duggan's entire run. His marriage to Emma does start off as a magic convenience, but they do have an on again, off again relationship. So much so it was cited in Civil War, in
Yes.
the first Civil War. I think the marriage is great. Uh, this does have a small tie into Resurrection of Magneto, which is the issue 17,
Mhm.
and yeah, it is a really good tie-in. It does make sense. Also, Kingpin is also a member of the X-Men at this point
Yeah,
because
because it was
Typhoid
marriage
Mary
Typhoid
is
Yeah,
Mary.
there.
because
Yeah.
He's
he
married
That's
to
married
right
Typhoid
Typhoid
after
Mary.
Mary.
Devil's Reign. He
Yes,
bounces. That's why the X-Men were involved in the Devil's Reign crossover. That's really what
yes,
I mean. Besides, make sure they're all doing stuff during events. But
yes,
they had a nice little loophole thrown in
and
there.
it's true. And Emma and Tony become members of the Hellfire Club, also using their ways to gain money. Emma is under disguise, not looking like that. She
She got
is,
brown hair.
yeah, she has brown hair with big boobs. And
She's the
yeah,
same with brown hair.
yeah, exactly. And that's what it is. Tony marries Emma, um, in a fake wedding thing in Vegas, real quick, so they can do superhero stuff together. And he gets an armor built out of Mysterio,
And it looks so cool.
and it looks dope as hell.
It looks dope. Give me a toy.
Iron Man.
All right, next up, there it is, James. Weapons of Vengeance. Ben Percy doing Wolverine and Ghost Rider at the same time. Like James said, sometimes you combine it all together with artist Jeff Shaw from the Donny Cates God Country and what else did Jeff Shaw do? Something else era. Combine their efforts from Ghost Rider and Wolverine in a wild crossover. Helverine becomes a thing. More on that later. That's all I wrote
Yes.
down for this.
All
It's
right,
one issue
so
of Wolverine, one issue of Ghost Rider, and then an Alpha and an Omega.
this 4-issue miniseries does a retcon story that doesn't really exist before. There's a young mutant that has the ability to sculpt humans and make like flesh statues, which is really gross.
Yum,
Realizing the
yum.
power comes from a demon that ties into Wolverine later. Um,
Oh, Jeff Shaw did Thanos. That's what it was.
yes.
Mm, mm.
So it's up to Johnny Blaze and Wolverine to hunt down this mutant because they have a thing that they hunted down this mutant in the past with this young boy, and that mutant now has come
It's like the Batman Zatanna thing, where it's like,
yes.
make sure the Batman character in the Marvel universe has a cool thing with the magic character.
Yeah, it's
So
that. It's like at one point in their time,
they all
hunting down
agreed
this
to do
kid.
this thing that's not relevant until it is.
Exactly, and that's all it
I
is.
love that
And then
shit.
at one point, Wolverine gets bonded with the Spirit of Vengeance.
Hell yeah.
Of
That's all
course,
it is.
because wouldn't be a Wolverine like book if he didn't get involved in this in some way, shape, or form.
Absolutely. You can continue on. That's all this book is.
Yeah, I was like,
It,
X Force
read
43 through
Wolverine, read Ghost
50,
Rider.
the final two books in the X Force storyline. Percy and Gil bring Krakoa's ops team to an explosive finish, leading into Sabretooth War. Wholly consistent and good. Really works out when you don't keep relaunching.
These are facts.
Just throwing shade real quick.
So before it becomes part of Sabretooth War, this story actually wraps up the Mikhail Rasputin slash Colossus story, in which he actually becomes a leader. He takes over X-Force as the leader, as Wolverine has left to do Wolverine stuff. Because I guess the next Wolverine slide we'll do like two things.
Yes, Wolverine.
Yeah, yeah. So he has taken over the leadership of X Force as they have, because after the Beast stuff and after Wolverine has left the team, they have become again a strike squad to free people from around the world. As Orcus does its invasion story, it has a lead up to Sabretooth War. and it takes place all before Rise and Fall. Those two stories take place right before Rise and Fall.
Yeah, because Sabretooth
As
takes place right before that as
we lead
well.
into Wolverine issues 36 to 50.
Yep, the
Um,
Sabretooth War. You got
so
Benjamin Percy teaming up with Victor LaValle, who was the writer that did the other two Sabretooth ones. Jeff Shaw pops in a little bit with Juan Jose Ripe to close out Wolverine with a 50-year rivalry and also 50 years of Wolverine. Sabretooth War fires on all cylinders and will be a Wolverine story for the history books. Dakin's here. But yikes.
yeah,
Oh no.
that's the opening of Sabretooth War. So, right before this part, before it gets to the 10-part issue from 40 through 50, 36 through 40 is Wolverine teaming up with various Marvel heroes across the universe as Orcus attacks. As he gets before Orcus's attack
Yeah,
happens.
Ghost Rider, Weapons of Vengeance, then right into this with issue 36.
Yeah, so 36 through
36,
39
39, yeah.
is him teaming up with Black Panther, Captain America, and Spider Man. Just doing the hard traveling hero story as he gets allies to lead up to the Orcus fight, and then um, you read X Force first, and then you read this as X Force has retreated up into the mountains with Wolverine. Sabretooth has formed an army of Sabretooths, Sabreteeth, from across the multiverse and has brought the war right to Wolverine. Opening fires, the opening shot is him killing Dakin, and it becomes a bloody all out. It's one of the best Wolverine stories ever written. It is a
Wolverine
nonstop
gets a freaking
action.
adamantium suit.
Yes,
Holy
it is a
jeez.
nonstop action. There
Yeah,
is a return.
Sabretooth basically goes Super Saiyan, and Wolverine's like, fuck, I can't beat him. So then he
Yeah.
gets this freaking big ass suit. It's so cool.
There's also a return of a character that we haven't seen in a while, Graydon Creed. And yeah,
Sure.
it is who is also a multiversal hunter now
You gotta
of
bring
Sabretooth.
Romulus back, man. What are we
Well,
doing?
no, because that's what they did. They
I
just
mean,
they made Graydon Creed a multiversal hunter of Sabretooth across the multiverse, and the headless Sabretooth become Sabretooth's army in this. It's actually a really cool story. It is again going back to the character retrospect of Sabretooth and Wolverine's rivalry that's been around forever. It's a fantastic story. Yeah, again, it's what happens if you don't reboot a series all the time and you have one writer doing something consistent.
Yeah, and
it's
then you bring
also
on the guy who wrote really good Sabretooth books to help you write your Sabretooth finale. That's a power move, dude. Like, that's crazy.
it's also like Sabretooth wants to smoke. That's just
Yeah.
what the series culminates to.
Oh no, what the fuck, our boy?
It is really cool. Like, it does sad, but there is something that leads out of this moment, and also
Yeah,
it is
we
like
will get to.
it's really sad. It's really cool though. It's a really good story.
But let's keep it going. So there are too many miniseries during this era, so I'll break them up by 3 per page because otherwise we'd have like freaking 50 slides. So miniseries part 1, Astonishing Iceman Out Cold by Steve Orlando and Vincenzo Carratù. Iceman fights bigots. I mean, that's every X-Men book, but I had to make it short. Children of the Vault. DeCamp is there with Luca Marchesi. Bishop and Cable fight the returned Vaulties. And then Alpha Flight Divided We Stand, written by Ed Brisson and with art by Scott Duletsky. The Return of Canadian Super Team, along with a few extra stragglers.
All right, so I'll run these down real quick. Iceman. After his seemingly to die in Hellfire Gala, he is now active. Finding out that his boyfriend, the Inhuman, is manifesting him, so he's able to fight crime. He's only able to stay out for a short
He's a
period of
stand.
time, until they figure out that he is being constantly reconstituted. Um, and it is a kind of fight for the life of Iceman, mostly taking place on New York and Long Island. Children of the Vault is a team up book between Bishop and Cable as they fight the Children of the Vault who've taken upon themselves to be superheroes.
They got woken
Uh,
up from Forge's dream or whatever, and they're like,
yes.
fuck you.
So
They're-
Forge's long form story is that they were locked away,
Mm.
and now the
in like
timer
little
has
pods that made them think they won or whatever,
yes.
which I thought
So
was really dope.
So now they haven't, and now Bishop and Cable have teamed up to take them down as they've become self-proclaimed heroes. Orcus sees them as a threat, but would rather let them eat the mutants and the Volties kill each other. And Alpha Flight is again return to a superhero team, but you have to read that first before you read X Force and Wolverine. They lead right into Sabretooth War. Um, it shows Canada is taking the side of Orcus as they use Box to create his own Sentinel program for Canada, and there is a return of a or an old character
Yeah,
in
Dakin's in
Nemesis.
this book too, but I
Yes,
didn't want to put a sexy Dakin thing in here because there's so much going on.
Just too
So,
much.
but just to know, I thought about it.
yes, and it is a almost kind of version, a mix between Civil War and what's going on now, as there are two teams of Alpha Flight, one that works for the Canadian government and the other one that doesn't. Surprise, surprise, they both don't work for Canadian government. They're all just trying to find ways to save mutants.
Yeah, hell yeah, save mutants. Oh, Justin, did you read any of these?
I did not, honestly.
fair. All right, next bit miniseries part 2. We got X-Men, Dark X-Men: The Mercy Crown. That's written by Steve Fox and Jonas Scharf. On art, basically Hellions with Gambit and Gimmick, but their name is now Faint. I forgot about
Yes.
that, but I remembered to talk about it last week. Uncanny Avengers. Hell yeah, this book is crazy. The Resistance. Duggan continues to do more X-Men-y nonsense with Javier Garron. Captain America is back with Quicksilver and the X-Men. Dude, this is so cool.
We'll talk about it in a second.
And then Jean Grey, Flames of Fear by Louis Simonson and Bernard Chang. Jean's life is in shambles.
Yeah,
I mean,
like
But,
normal.
when is it
what
not?
else is new?
Yeah. So we'll run through all these again. We'll start off with Dark X-Men, and we'll talk about each one of them. Dark X-Men spinning out of Hellions, Dark Web, and Hellfire Gala. What happens when Madeline decides that the X-Men are needed in a world that doesn't have any? She forms her own X-Men out of the denizens of her limbo embassy, being Albert. Being Azazel, who's also with Empath for some reason. Um, Archangel, Gambit, who's there.
Yeah, because
Havoc.
Gambit's got to be in every single era.
Because
Well,
why not?
yeah,
Hell
well,
yeah.
Gambit's there because they need Gambit. Havoc, who's living with Emma, who's living with
I
Madeline,
was like,
and Zero.
Yeah, and then
Um,
Faint because they were like, oh yeah, we have these kids that we have to put in books.
yes, and Albert is recruited after
And
Orcus sent
Albert's
him.
the Wolverine one, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
yes.
I wanted to make
Albert
sure.
is recruited after he kills Archangel, and Archangel is revived. It actually ends up being a fight between Madeline and her alternate counterpart, the Goblin Queen, from the Secret Wars alternate reality, who's stuck here.
Oh,
Nice
the
throwback
Eternal
for
one?
Steve Fox.
Yeah.
As
Steve
the
Fox
Doc,
is great at lore. They
yes,
got to put him on Spider-Man or something. Like,
I
what are we
know.
doing?
So much so that the Albert unit is destroyed, and Zero and Albert are one unit. Angel has a devil head that they killed him and then resurrected him, but then he's fine, I guess, for X Factor. Who knows?
Yeah. Well,
Um,
for Heirs of Apocalypse.
I don't know.
We'll
Yeah,
get there.
yeah,
We'll
yeah.
get there.
But it really is a battle between Emma and her alternate counterpart and the magic dark side of Orcus. You have Uncanny Avengers, in which Steve, again, a fallout from Hellfire Gala, as the uniform of Captain Krakoa, as Captain Krakoa leads a gang of mutants known as the Mutant Liberation Front against humans, and everyone believes he's Captain America, and that Captain Krakoa is the good guy, while Steve forms a team with Rogue and Psylocke, Penance, and Deadpool. Quicksilver and Monet get together in this series and become a couple,
Interesting.
and you find out that you find out that Captain Krakoa is Evil Steve from
From Secret Empire. What the
Empire.
fuck?
It's evil. He takes
Why
a different
not?
name. He takes a different name at the end. He is actually called. He After becoming Captain Krakoa, he becomes Flag Smasher.
Which is
Later
still a
on,
throwback to an old
which
Captain
is
America
the
villain that nobody cares
MCU
about.
thing. Yeah, it's an
Yeah.
Yeah.
MCU thing. And yeah, it's actually a really great story. It's a story. Actually, what's great about this, they do leave it open that the team might come back post
I love when the Uncanny Avengers
House.
shows up, dude.
So do I. Might come
Half
back
Avengers,
post
half
House.
X-Men, dude, the best.
Because
Well, it's not
it
even
makes
half.
the most sense. I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
honestly.
cool. And it's a
Um,
combination uncanny, dude. Oh, I love it.
And then we get to Jean Grey, which is just Jean's life is in shambles after she
Dude,
has
always,
died, and
always.
she is trying to figure out what her bond with the Phoenix is. Each issue goes back to a moment in Jean's history, and then throws the Phoenix in there and shows if she may or may not be corrupted by it. There's also Louis Simonson, which I love.
Always good when
Of
they pop in.
these miniseries, I think Uncanny X-Men has the most likelihood to come back. Dark X-Men and Jean Grey both play out their stories into Fall of X. Dark X-Men kind of ends on a weird note that, oh hey, the Limbo is embassies here and whatever. Uncanny X-Men ends on that the team may come back, and Jean Grey leads directly into the Fall and Rise stories.
Hell yeah. Oh, Justin, did you read any of these?
I did read Dark X-Men.
What'd you think?
I've been meaning to read Uncanny Avengers,
You
and
should.
Jean Grey, I was kind of just like, eh.
What do you think about Dark X-Men?
I thought it was pretty good. I really, like I said, it started convincing me that Maddie is worth maybe another read. Like,
100% all the time.
As long as
I
they
was
keep her
like,
up.
because I've always just seen her as just this, like, not really. She's a multifaceted character, but I was kind of always just like, eh. I don't. I'm not a super Jean fan, so
Yeah,
a
I'm not
clone
a
of
Jean
Jean.
fan
Why?
either.
Why would I be a fan of
Jean
her?
from X-Men Bendis. Because I never read the old school X-Men stuff, so having like a modern day old school Jean, I was like, she knows the Phoenix sucks and she's not into it. That's cool. So
Yeah,
every time Jean's now here, it's like,
I know, because now I'm just like, Phoenix Jean again.
not a fan of Phoenix. But honestly, anytime I do read Jean in an X-Men book, it's always interesting. I feel like I'm a casual Jean enjoyer, if that makes any sense. Like when she's on a
Yeah,
team, I'm like, okay. But when she's on a solo book, I'm like, you're evil though. Shut up. Like you're bad.
I can
All
definitely
right.
agree with that.
Let's get into the miniseries part 3. We got Realm of X, written by Torrin Groenbeck, who does a lot of the Valkyrie stuff with art with Neves. Magic and company go to Vanheim and do some stuff. Finishes up some New Mutants plot lines. Finishes up some other stuff. Put these on the same one because too much. Iman Vellani, the actress, and Sabir Pirzada, the writer of the
Miss
TV
Marvel TV
show,
show. Yep.
along with Carlos Gomez, Andrew Gorman, and Galewski. Kamal is a mutant. That's what these are about.
Yep.
And then Uncanny Spider-Man, Fall of X. Spurrier continues his Nightcrawler shenanigans with Lee Garbett. Spider-Man collecting Blue Origins. That's wild.
Yes. So I will run through these again. Realm of X, again, Magic Company, which includes Magic, Mirage, Dust, and Bling, and Typhoid Mary. Explains kind of what happens to some of the mutants that afterwards, as they ended up going through the gates, that not all of them were killed. The lie that Orcus tells Xavier as he's stuck on Krakoa and can't leave, he's in prison there, that the mutants all died if they used the gate. They didn't. These guys just get transported to Vanaheim. They are supposed to serve some weird mythical prophecy on the island.
That's why Torrin Gronbeck's writing it because
fine.
it's the weird like Thor stuff.
It's fine. It's cool if you like Thor, if you like Asgardian magic, if you like X-Men, it's a perfect book. Starting off with Miss Marvel, the New Mutant, a direct fallout from Hellfire Gala 3. Miss Marvel is a mutant, setting up her new status quo as she deals with being a mutant and the unknown idea of what her mutant power may be. It is red herring that her power is a multiversal power that she can call upon other versions of herself because she's having these weird dreams, but it doesn't matter because that's not what her power is. And then Mutant Menace, which is the back end of that series, where you actually see what her mutant power is at the end of the series, and her inhuman powers are going on the fritz, and how she has to stabilize both of them. It's cool. If you like Miss Marvel, read them out. And then, of course, Uncanny Spider-Man. It's the ending of the Seisberger trilogy of Nightcrawler, in which he is to deal with the sins of him at the end of Legion of X. This is direct fallout from Legion of X. Sons of X, as he has killed somebody in his monster form. He is now back to normal. Borrows a suit from Spider-Man and takes the streets as a hero in Manhattan. He also has a little bath with him, secretly known as Legion, talking to him and being his conscience. And of course, it collects X-Men Blue, which retells the origin of Mystique and Destiny and Nightcrawler and what it means to them. And Claremont was right, I guess. It's kind of what we all wanted, and Claremont wanted to do in the 60s, but you couldn't fucking do in the 60s. It's a great Spider-Man story. It's also really cool that
Spider-Man's in a bunch of the issues too.
Yes. Also the main villain in that story is Vulture, who is a main scientist for Orcus, which I will get to why I have problems with the end of X, the Fall of X. But yeah, these are great miniseries. You guys read any of these?
I read Uncanny Spider-Man. Had to.
Well, yeah.
And I read the first half of, as in the first 2 issues of Ms. Marvel New Mutant. I'm just gonna wait for them to collect them in one big little package. And I wasn't reading New Mutants, so I didn't read Realm of X. Justin, did you read Realm of X? And what did you read about? Did you think about the other ones?
I honestly did not read any of the three. I'm
No, you
terrible
got to
with
check
it.
out Realm of X. Then it's got your New Mutants in there.
I know, and it was so funny because I got bogged down with a lot of like the X stories,
Mhm.
and I fell behind. So I was like, okay, um,
Yeah, Fall of X just had so many books because they were just like, we got to wrap up 5 years of stories in 3 years, so we got to dump all these real quick.
and that was the whole thing. So that's why I was like, all right, let me just pick and choose. And I definitely, Realm of X is on. Like, I have it. I just haven't read it yet.
Yeah, it's in the
Um,
pile. It's in the pile of shame.
but I will say, Miss Marvel and Spider Man, I was kind of just like, I've seen the fallout of Uncanny Spider Man because honestly, I thought it was,
If you're a big Mystique and Destiny fan, Blue Origins is great. That's that one issue. But
yeah.
also, if you collect, it's collected in the trade for this one, and it tells a cohesive story. It takes place right after issue 4, issue 5, kind of nonsense.
But yeah, I really do want to read Realm of X. Like, it's one of those, and especially because I really enjoy Danny Moonstar and Magic together. I always feel like they have a weird kind of like aggressive friendship.
Well, yeah, they're the OGs, man. They're the OGs that butt heads.
Yeah, all the time, and but it makes for good storytelling.
Yeah,
It
I didn't
does.
know you were such a New Mutants fan. I gotta have
Oh
you.
yeah.
I gotta
Oh
just talk to you about the New Mutants. There's something that I don't have that much information on besides that one movie, and I like Magic because of Midriff, but also she's cool. So
no, New Mutants. It was very fascinating because actually the first comics that I picked up before I went back were New Mutants.
Oh God.
which one, the Krakoa ones or?
No, 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 way back when.
Okay, like the OGs. Gotcha. I want to
Yeah.
No, I know. Ridiculous. New Mutants.
Oh, miniseries
Ugh.
part 4. I lied. There was 4 of these.
Yes, there
I think.
was.
There could be 5. Let's see. So Cable, placeholder cover from Amazon. This is written by Fabian Nicieza with art by Scott Eaton. Cable deals with the Neocracy. Dead X-Men. Steve Fox is here with Karatu, Chang, and Sharf. The
Mhm.
X-Men who died during the gala are brought back. These are the ones that were voted onto the team that all got iced before they were able to do anything. And then this is technically Immortal X-Men Volume 5, but it is X-Men Forever if you're collecting
Yes.
it in individual issues. Continued by Gillen. There you go. Immortal X-Men Volume 5, but renumbered and titled. When
Alright,
you're
cool.
collecting it in trade, it says Immortal X-Men Volume 5, X-Men
Forever, yeah.
or whatever.
So
But yeah, it's the individual issues were X-Men Forever. And this is
So-
like more Jean Grey stuff.
yeah, it is. It was
Obviously.
mixed. So
if you couldn't tell by the cover.
yeah, so
by some of that or something,
so running through this again, you have Cable. Cable is Cable and Kid Cable teaming up with each other to deal with the necrocracy. It seems out of place, but it's because Cable has a vision, not vision, but he knows of a necrocracy is starting to come now instead of years when it's supposed to. So the two of them are teaming up to stop it. Also, kind of setting up their relationship to lead into Fall and Rise. You have Dead X-Men, as Hunter said. These are the X-Men who are brought back. This book actually plays this and in X-Men for X-Men Forever tie a big role into the Rise and Fall books, as the Dead X-Men are a secret team built by Xavier, Ascani, and Cypher to figure a timeline in order to beat Moira, in order to fix all the stuff that's been going on. And then you have X-Men Forever, which is what happened in the White Hot Room and what happened to the Five. It's what happened to the Five and how they exist, and it's a Mother Righteous story as a villain.
Hey, Justin, did you read any of these?
I did. I read Immortal X-Men
Oh,
Volume
there you go.
5.
What do you think?
So I always thought it was fascinating because like the White Hot Room is always just this kind of like amorphous kind of thing. So it was kind of interesting seeing the Five like and this whole like desert theme and Mother Righteous just kind of being like very manipulative despite like you know actually she's on the cusp of kind of like achieving what she wants to achieve and is very good at manipulating all of the pieces to try to achieve it. And I was kind of rooting for her for a bit because I was like, you know what? If anyone was going to become a Dominion, I feel like at that given point, like she was going to do it, and then
Yep.
she doesn't.
And she doesn't.
She gets a
And
nice F you.
she gets beat bad, and like she's like a prisoner to Xavier and all of
Mm.
them, which ties back to Dead X-Men. And the five are kind of wandering that white hot room, and their plan is to like just survive, and they find out that Jean's there. Please read the Jean Grey book. And yeah, it's actually really cool to see like what happens, and it leads into issue 35 of X-Men. And yeah, we get to see kind of what happens when mutants have no hope and Exodus decides to become a mutant leader.
Yeah,
Oh,
Exodus. All right, here we go. We're wrapping it up. This is one of the other minis, but because it was a bigger book, I gave it its own slide. The Resurrection of Magneto. Al Ewing continues Mars stuff. Luciano Vecchio on this one. Storm resurrects Magneto for the fall of Krakoa. He helps Iron Man.
That's kind of the book.
In issue 4, and then in the Iron Man book, yes, Magneto's
Yes.
there to help Iron Man.
it's this series that fully convinces me that Magneto and Storm are in a relationship.
100%.
Like they
She
are
breaks all the rules to bring back her her homeboy. No way.
legit. Blue Marvel's like, oh, okay, well, I'm setting up this portal to like the afterlife, but I really need to like look into Storm. Storm.
It's like, I got it.
Homegirl leaps in
She's like,
to
thanks,
the
dog.
unknown. And then it's just like goes on this wacky adventure, meeting her like magic version of herself, and also like kind of meeting some of the other Dominions. I'm assuming was that whole
Yes.
like weird aspect of it, which kind of was pretty interesting because they it kind of gives a little bit of a nature to the Dominions, which I kind of
Yeah.
liked. Um, all just to finally find Magneto and be like, all right, well, you know what? Yeah, you were kind of an asshole for a while, but you're also a good person too. So, you know, chin up, Buttercup, let's roll.
I mean, duh. And also, they weren't going to not let Magneto not come back. They have a whole movie franchise in this sport.
Bro, like, you can't even leave Magneto dead, man.
And they
You
bring
need
him back in his
Magneto.
OG outfit because X-Men 97 was
Well,
coming
actually,
out.
because his alpha. If you look at the cover is like wrong because if you look at his uniform, in Resurrection, he's back to his 20s, and his belt and he has a choker and his belt and where this little outline around his V collar is the X's.
Oh
The
yeah,
cover is
definitely with the
just the
sequence.
old uniform.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the entire book is the ending story of Ewing's trilogy from Sword to X-Men Red to Resurrection of Magneto, um, culminating Storm's and Magneto's relationship, but also setting up what they will be doing into fall. And yeah, it is just kind of like a character study on Magneto and what happens if you've been a shit person. When you know you can be brought back, do your sins weigh heavier on you
Dude,
than it would on
Magneto
someone
is
else?
the star of From the Ashes. I'm calling it.
Oh, yeah. Well,
When we
and you
talk about
know,
from the ashes, we'll get there.
and a friendly visit from our neighborhood Shadow King. Why
Oh
not?
yeah, gotta
Like,
have him.
Yes. Also, this story does add and finish up the idea that the Shadow King story is him being the Anti-Phoenix. This is you see the first fallen in this one, and you see
And we got a new
um
Phoenix book coming out
well,
too.
even
So
as an aside, it kind of just establishes him as like a cosmic entity. Like he shows you
yes.
all the other cosmic entities that the X-Men have been faced off against, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm also up there too. I'm not this like random telepath that just comes to bother you.
Yeah.
I'm like,
He
like,
is he is an aspect
I
of
deserve to be a problem.
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
pretty much."
And we have Phoenix book coming, so
Yeah,
yeah.
let's get on to the next bit. The one shots during this era. I don't believe there are that many, but I could be wrong. Let's see what the slide says. There looks like
Oh.
there's going to be 2 giant sized X-Men, which is mostly just an Angel story that's written by Ann Nesenti and with art by Lee Ferguson. Angel has an identity crisis.
Yet
It's
again.
got a Brian Hitch cover, which is cool, and then the Marvel Pride Weddings anniversary special nonsense from Mystique and Destiny. That's done by everybody, everybody and their mom. Mystique and Destiny get married. That's what that one is.
So the Johnson's X-Men is actually kind of pseudo post Krakoa as Angel deals with their fallout from the book and trying to find his place. And yeah, some weird gnarly stuff happens to Angel. The X-Men Pride issue is set right after Krakoa. It's a telling of Mystique and Destiny renewing their vows because they never really officially got married on Krakoa. And it is a be gay, do crime story. It's funny as hell. And in fact, I want more of that style story with Nightcrawler and Destiny and Mystique
We
and
might be
Rogue
getting
and
that with the
Gambit.
Mystique miniseries that was
And
just
yes,
announced as
I
well
yes,
as of recording. Very
yes,
cool. Declan
I was gonna
Shane
bring that
coming
up.
in clutch. I'm definitely picking that book up.
And
Like I was never a huge Mystique fan. I liked her because she's a hot blue lady, but like I mean, come on. But like reading her during the Krakoa, dude, I was rooting for her the whole time.
oh,
she's the
absolutely.
unsung hero of the Krakoan era.
She
You can't
is.
tell me
And
otherwise, dude.
you know what? Even in this series, what I think I really enjoyed, especially particularly when it came down to their like family story, is the fact that she really like plays it cool with like Nightcrawler as he's coming to terms with all of this information that he found out
Mhm.
about them, and
And he's like, wait, so my dad's not my dad? You're also Sherlock Holmes? What's going on?
and they have this fight and you think that they like duke it out and everything's all right, but then you like it flashes to when Nightcrawler and Rogue are sleeping, and Mystique actually has like moments of vulnerability where she's like, yeah, I really fucked up even though I'm not really responsible for it. Really fucked up here, and I don't know if he's ever gonna like forgive me. Like, she's actually concerned about somebody else, like,
Yeah.
and how Nightcrawler is going to actually move on and move forward with his relationship with Mystique being his mother.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was really captivating to me because I'm like, you know what? I can enjoy Mystique being like, I don't give a shit about anyone. I just do my own thing. I'm all
Yeah.
about me. But it's also nice when you actually see the one person or at least group of people that she loves together and her actually showing that, like, hey, I'm a person and these are the only people that I really care about. And I'm concerned that, like, what if they never actually love me in return? And I thought that was pretty cool.
It is explored very well in the wedding issue, and it seems so much so that even like the whole thing with Destiny and Nightcrawler too, like Destiny doesn't have memories of her, or well, because Xavier wiped away her maternal love for Nightcrawler. Um, she doesn't have. She even says it. She goes, "I don't care about you like a mother." She goes, "I love your mom, but I don't have maternal feelings for you."
Yeah, I think she's
Uh,
gonna. I think the whole point is like she's like,
and
I'm
it's
trying though. She's like,
Yeah,
I'm
and it
gonna
is fixed
try
by
my
the end.
best.
Yeah, it is fixed by the end when she
Yeah.
gets
Yeah.
her memory back, and she goes,
Yeah.
"No, that's my son." But yeah, it's a good special.
Mhm.
Yeah, because I thought that was fascinating that not only did he take away her memories, he took away the emotional connection tied to those memories.
Yeah,
So even when she got the memories back, it still wasn't like, oh, the emotional connection's not there. Like, I
Yeah,
know
right.
you're my
because Xavier
son.
sucks, dude. Like
Oh,
Yes.
it's crazy that we still think Magneto's worse than him.
but
Like
No.
at
no,
least,
in
at
what
least in
world?
pop culture, I mean, like
I'm
pop
like,
culture,
Yeah.
like because we haven't had like Fassbender was on the tracks, but they kept cutting him short at the knees. But like Magneto is so close to being a pop culture icon. If people just read more comic books, be like, Magneto was right, and also Xavier
Oh,
sucks. Xavier
Xavier's
sucks,
like
dude.
up there with like Reed Richards and
I
why
agree with
there's
the
so many
with
problems
issue
in Marvel
X Men
Universe.
X Men 35, which we'll get to in a bit. Really, just everybody's like, "Yo, Xavier sucks." Prisoner numero uno back in your X Mansion. Let's get out of here. But let's get into that with more of this nonsense from placeholder Amazon and Jerry Duggan and Karen Gillan. combining forces with Lucas Burnick and RB Silva. I just copied and pasted the thing on here. Orcus has left them outlawed and hunted with most of their kind missing or dead. And now one of the greatest leaders, Cyclops, is on trial facing the death penalty. Meanwhile, a secret adversary has risen to power outside of reality. And as hopeless as the fight to save their species might seem, it's nothing compared to the fight to save the entirety of reality. Final Krakoa event book, end of an era. Let's go. This is the Fox Box or whatever.
Yes. So, with Fall, the House of X is the Cyclops story in which he is kind of retelling the trial of Magneto, where he is put on trial to face the crimes of mutant kind. While in Rise, it is the Dead X-Men story and them trying to figure out how to rewrite reality, but also the Dominion story where you find out the true villain, the true Dominion, which is supposed to be the big villain of Hickman's entire era, is Sinister that is unbridled, a Sinister that has the data of all four. While each of the Sinisters were supposed to be, one was supposed to be about
Super
humanity.
Sinister, if you will.
Yes, because each of the four Sinisters were supposed to be a Dominion in itself. One being about mutant kind with Mr. Sinister, Mother Righteous being about magical people to reach the Dominion, Stasis to find some science way in space, and Dr. Stasis, which humanity was supposed to be the Dominion. With all of them dead, Enigma is born, the King crown, and he is the Dominion that the X-Men have to face at the end of time and space, which is why they have to bring back Jean. And on Earth, in the Fall of House of X, it is the Orcus battle just taking place across the entirety of Marvel Universe as the mutant kind fights against Orcus and Nimrod. It's amazing.
Hell yeah.
The Rise stuff gets confusing because it's not a complete story.
Yeah, Justin,
yeah.
what do you think about all this nonsense falling out of how?
It was very interesting because, like, I thought it was kind of fascinating having Sinister basically being like, "Oh, I want to achieve like an above God like level." So I'm going to create 4 clones that are going to, or 3 other clones that are going to each kind of find a different section of the Marvel universe to explore in order to find Dominion Hood. And it turned out it was AI all along.
Yeah.
Like, was essentially what it culminated to. So I thought that was pretty fascinating. And, I think the only particular thing, especially when it came to the resurrection of Jean, that I thought was pretty fascinating was that it was like, you're resurrecting Jean, but then in turn, Jean is resurrecting the Phoenix Force.
Yes.
And I thought that was kind of a fascinating dichotomy because it's always been like the Phoenix Force resing Jean.
Yeah.
So it's always been like, oh, okay, this cosmic force is what Jean relies on in order to come back. And now it's kind of like Jean returning the favor. But I think within that, the most interesting thing is how Jean is describing what the Phoenix is feeling at given moments. Like she's feeling fear, she's feeling like actual death, and things that she's never felt before, which is how originally the Dark Phoenix came to be, because she was feeling emotions and things through Jean's body, but now she's feeling like death. and,
Yeah.
and it's terrifying.
And what's crazy about this book is that, and especially with that whole Jean thing, it's like this is the birth of the Phoenix, the actual Phoenix that will later go through time and space and bring back Jean later on when she's younger. This is the start of that timeline, so much so that they have to kill Hope to bring that forward.
Mhm.
And like, oh well, Hope was born, so this would happen here, and this whole thing, and the really the books outside. Like, so the big thing is that Fall is the Marvel Universe story. What happens when Orcus wins, and now the Marvel Universe versus Orcus. That's what Fall is. Rise of the Powers of 10 is what happens when the Dominion wins, and now we have to fight time and space, which is a very Hickman-y big concept story.
Eh,
Go ahead, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, to even add on top of that, I really rarely like cosmic books because I feel like they're not done properly. But like the fight between Enigma
Oh
and
my god,
Jean
yeah.
is amazing. amazing because it takes like a battle of like wits to like cosmic levels where they're
It's so
like,
good.
he's like changing certain parts of reality, changing certain parts of her past, trying to get her to forget things, and like doing certain things to distract her so that he can work his machinations over here. And it was just such a like big power play chess move that it's just like it was crazy to read. Like
It
that's
is
it was
because like
mind blown.
they literally go back to major moments of Gene's history and be like, all right, so now we're gonna make the affair happen earlier with Emma, or we're going to make her not want to join the X-Men. We're going to do all this other, and like, so he's doing that, and then she's like, all right, no, but I'm going to do this, and it's really cool to see that final fight. But throughout the entire series, it is one of those, like, besides the big heady concept with Dominion, it is, and the one thing I do, what I wish they did instead was make Fall a Marvel event in which all the books are tied in, because like
Mm,
Spider-Man's in here. The Avengers aren't an issue, or an issue. There's a Avengers tie-in that's part of this. Iron Man's tied into this. Um, to be like more of like, hey, this is the Marvel Universe event, them versus Orcus. The big heavy concept is fine by itself in Rise. Um, but yeah, it is also to pay for. This is the biggest sin of Xavier. you know, this is as far as the supers went. We could build an island nation, and no, you can't, because you allowed yourself to be corrupted by outsiders the entire time. Whether it was your own quiet because you believed in mutant utopia, that you wiped away the sins of the mutants that kind of caused a lot of the upheaval in your society. Um, that you brought about things like the Sinister event. You know, the distrust from humanity in general will always lead to something like Orcus. It can't ever just be a peaceful paradise. It doesn't work that way. And you push that by doing things like terraforming Mars with Fei Long being like a representative of that. Orcus being the representation of just humans being upset that mutants exist in general. It's the idea that you cannot wipe away things like racism and bigotry, because people just don't like people because of how they look and act and are. That's just human. Some people are like that. So then building an island nation to show off your power doesn't help that cause, in this sense. Um, and it does wrap up in the idea that this is the greatest sin of Xavier. I mean, besides Onslaught.
I
But
mean,
no one talks about
besides the
Onslaught.
long,
I mean, yeah.
long laundry list of his sins.
Yes, but it is one of these stories that, taken as a whole, it is the ending benchmark for the era. And it does end. Besides, when we get to issue 35, it is the final battle of Orcus. Orcus is done. It falls. You know, Jean beats Enigma. Now where do we go? And then X-Men 35 kind of wraps it all up.
Yeah, and that's one of the big particular things is that it definitely really exposes the fact that you know Xavier's whole thing has been about a peaceful coexistence, and he focused on all of the negative things that have happened with that, and then decides to veer completely left. And it's just like, you know what? We are better than them, and it's time for us to finally prove it.
Even
And
Magneto during this time is like, dude, what? And then just goes to Mars.
Yeah.
pretty much, and it is true though. It is like, this is like the idea of peaceful coexistence, that you live with them, not above them, not next to them. It's supposed to be living with them.
But
And the
Xavier's
problem,
just been beaten down so many times. He in X Force issue 1, he's like, it took you guys 3 months to try to kill me, and that just sets the precedent for his headspace going forward for
oh
when we
yeah,
get here, where he's like, dude, I've been sick of it since day one. He's like, fucking, we're doing what we're doing, and they can freaking hold my fucking beer. You know what I mean?
yeah, and that's the whole thing. He lived this idea about peaceful mutant coexistence, but in this entire era, you see that it's not coexist. You can't coexist, like, and be an island nation powerhouse. You have to coexist by living amongst each other and living with each other. But by doing your own kind of segregation, like, oh well, mutants live on the island, and we're only going to do mutant things, and you
Yeah,
have to forcibly accept
for
mutant.
everything that like was cool about this, it like this whole era, it also seems like it's such a reductive piece of content to have in the X-Men, because it's like, instead of being like you said, where it's peaceful coexistence, and coexisting means being amongst everybody. When they had the school, they were in like, either the Westchester Hills or whatever, sometimes in the
Yeah.
heart of the city. Like, and I understand that's why they put the tree in there during the Duggan run, because I feel like Duggan was like, why didn't we do this earlier? What are we talking about?
I
Like,
know.
it's crazy for the Krakoan era to happen and for the X-Men to be like, yeah, peace and love, let's go, finally us. And then on the outside, everybody's like, did they just get worse?
Yeah.
Are we supposed to hate them more now?
And that's the
What's
thing. It
going
is.
on?
It is like, and you're right. It is a reductive idea because it is the well. If we
I
can't live
just thought
amongst
about that
them,
now. I was like, no way.
well, because it is the if we can't live amongst them, we'll live above them, and that's even goes back to
Mhm.
Hoxpox when Magneto says, "No, your new gods are here."
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of that broad
Magneto gets
mentality.
humbled in Judgment Day, so
Yeah. It's one of those. Oh, if you want to move on to expanded reading, so we can finish up some
oh
stuff.
no, yeah, you guys are going on good
Oh
points.
yeah, I
If you
have actual
wanna,
talk about like other stuff, but I'll move on to
yeah,
expanded
we'll get
reading.
there. We're wrapping
Yeah.
up soon. So for the expanded reading, it was mostly just a lot of Marvel Unlimited. I needed to include this here because it ties up a lot of the era. And also, I forgot about X-Men Unforgiven. I don't know where the fuck it goes, so I put it here. But so the Avengers, because Jed McKay had just some extra issues before his Blood Hunt event, and Iron Man was so heavily involved, and Captain America, Steve, not Sam, being heavily involved in the ongoing fall, they were like, you know what, fuck it, here we go. So they have two Avengers crossovers in the Fall of the House of X, and then X-Men Unlimited, Sunfire, right before he heads up into some Orcus fighting, he goes to save that tree lady from the one contest where she gets stuck in a jar during X of Swords.
Yes.
Firestar's deep dive into her psyche. She also talks to Justice or X. Big Wife does Big Wife stuff with
Her name's Bay, the Blood Moon.
yeah, Doug's Big Wife with Psylocke, not Psylocke, with Captain Britain and company. John Proudstar joins in on that, and then it all culminates in the last of the New Mutants, along with all of the Excalibur
X4.
characters, and then Proudstar.
All right. And
And
then I
then
know.
X-Men Unforgiven is a vampire event that is leading into Blood Hunt slowly but surely. Another reason why I wanted to include it. It does take place during the Krakoa era, but I don't believe it actually ties into anything specific. But because it has Jubilee in it, and because Blood Hunt is technically coming next for X-Men, I put it in here too.
Yes.
Did you guys read any of these?
Yes, it did. So the Avengers with Jeff McKay is actually spun out directly from Duggan's Iron Man run,
Yeah.
in which Iron Man goes to the Avengers and goes, "Hey, by the way, we've been kind of sitting on our ass, with
Help
everything
my
going
wife.
on." Yeah, and that's what it was. He goes, "Yeah, I get it. We just
Well, yeah,
beat."
'cause Captain Marvel's even like, yeah, I helped him fight aliens.
Yeah, and that's what it was. They were like, it's more like Iron Man's plea to the Avengers, were like, "Hey, I know we just beat all these impossible villains because Jed McKay loves a good villain team.
Oh yeah.
And we just got the Impossible City, but now let's use the Impossible City to help the X-Men and my wife, my very hot wife." And they're like, "Yeah, sure." And that's what happens in the Avengers issue. And then it leads right into Blood Hunt. And X-Men Unforgiven does tie into the Krakoa era. It's a little bit before Hellfire Gala 3, in
Right.
which Jubilee teams up with the team, the Unforgiven, a team of vampires that have forsaken human blood. And it will lead directly into the Blood Hunt one shot for Jubilee.
Hell yeah. Justin, did you read any of these?
I did not know.
All good. We had to try. Last but not least is the X-Men 35 and Uncanny X-Men 700. I feel like there should be more than 700, but here we are. All hands on deck. Every writer and artist did something in here.
True.
Final issue
Yeah.
of Krakoa sets up new status quo for what's to come, tries its best to tie up all loose ends, but misses a few. But see epilogue. That's when we'll get to any more bits. So this wraps it up, man. This is,
Yeah.
Banshee's taking center stage here, but he's barely in anything. Come on, man.
I know.
But hell yeah, like this is such a cool cover too.
It is such a dope
And it's
cover.
got Pog. Like we love him.
I know.
Buggy,
So the whole thing with
Omega
700.
Sentinel.
So 700 is the setup that, not even setup. So it's the return of a apocalypse after the Racco stuff and
Oh, yeah, he's
post Orchis,
pissed.
and he's pissed off at mutant kind for failing. And he goes, "Well, you guys weren't strong enough. I'm gonna wipe you off." And the X-Men fuck his shit up.
Dude, Nightcrawler steals his eyes and then
Yes.
teleports in front of Wolverine, and Wolverine goes, "Whoa!" And he's like, "There's eyeballs," and he goes, "Oh, okay." It's like, dude,
And it
Wolverine thought he took his balls.
it felt
Get
like
the fuck outta here.
it feels like a great one shot as a ending to everything because it is like it's a classic X-Men villain versus the X-Men, and based on both their sides, like the X-Men, like, all right, cool, we won, we can go back to normal. We've kind of figured out what we're going to do now, and it is kind of a goodbye to Krakoa, because it's like, well, now Xavier kind of goes to prison and has to deal for his crimes against humanity.
And the prison is the old X Mansion that's
It's a
rebuilt like
school.
Arkham Asylum style. It's like
Yeah.
crazy.
Well, there are two fascinating things to me. The first was the fact that Xavier was like, okay, did you really think that I didn't go into the minds of the people who actually created this prison and make little ways that I could get out without them knowing? And I was just like, of course you would, because you're Charles fucking Xavier. Heaven forbid
Yeah.
you not manipulate somebody into doing something.
Not to accept your punishment.
And the second thing that kind of really bothered me, I will say, was I like the fact that they were like, oh, hey, while you guys were doing your stuff, there was this whole time thing that happened really in the white hot room while we were all here. So we brought back everybody who died on
Genosha, yeah.
on Genosha. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. Cool. And then they were like, yeah, we all though want to stay here in Krakoa in the white hot room. So peace.
Yeah.
I was just like, hold on, wait. So you brought them all back just to live off in paradise in heaven? Because so you brought them back to die again? That's sounds really feeling.
So if you look at the final little infograph, it shows a white hot room, and there's apparently a tiger that's also an enemy of the Phoenix that we've never heard about before, but sure. The white hot room they've made it kind of a null space where it's not that it's heaven. There's nothing there now. And
well, no, the living on Krakoa though.
Yeah,
that's paradise.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah.
Yes. So heaven, also, if you will.
But also limbo. That I forgot what Scarlet Witch they did in Trial Magneto when Scarlet Witch made the waiting room. The waiting room.
Yeah. The waiting room.
It was all based in the white hot room, so they just moved it all to the island. Sure, it's dumb to write them in to write them back out, but it's it's cool. And also the cop out they call it the first Krakoan age is stupid.
Oh yeah, that made me freak out. I was like, you're gonna call it the first Krakoan age? I'm like, you guys got okay. I liked a lot of the stories that were in this. Sure, we were joking and gaffing and goofing all about a bunch of these ones and poking fun at them, but all in all, they're very well written and they're very well put together. Sure, there were some editorial mishaps after Hickman left, but that happens with every book, dude. Fucking look at Spider-Man right now. I love Spider-Man and I like Zeb Wells. What is going on? So, you can love and you can hate a lot of stuff, but I feel like calling it the first Krakoan age for a lot of the haters that these books got and a lot of the old fogies that didn't like this stuff, calling it the first Krakoan age, you're gonna piss those people off, dude. First, we're gonna get a second one of all this nonsense is what they're thinking.
So that's the thing. It's meant.
And what
to
do
be
you even call the age? What?
So the reality is they call it.
I think it's just an editorial thing, really.
It is. It's meant to be
or any reference when people need to be for editorial. Where if Avengers is what do we say about what happened over those last 5 years? It's just call it the age of first age.
Well, no, what's meant to be is one of those in case we bring back people. Well, no, it's in case there's time travelers or some dumb shit.
Exactly.
Where it's oh well, that was during the first Krakoan age, and what do you mean it's more than one age of Krakoa? That's what it's meant to be. It's dumb, and I guess we'll enter our final thoughts before we do our epilogue. You want to do the epilogue first? Do you want to do?
Yeah, I forget what's in order. I mean, final thoughts will be. I kind of did a lot of my final thoughts just before, but let's get into the epilogue real quick.
Okay. Yeah.
So the epilogue is 4 books.
Yes.
all in all, Weapon X-Men, which technically takes place a little bit during the Krakoan era. There was original X-Men one-shot that's continuing the Onslaught stuff, and then Phoenix from that book joins up with a bunch of Wolverines, including Old Man Logan right before he dies. But it's unclear if it was during Lemire stuff, and then a bunch of other characters, including Zombie Wolverine. Then it's Helverine, the spin out of the Wolverine book, with a nice twist on who the Helverine is.
Yes.
And it's written by Ben Percy.
Yes.
Blood Hunt X-Men, which is going to be Wolverine's 4 issues, and then 4 one-shots for Laura Kinney, Jubilee,
Magic.
Dazzler, and Cyclops. No, Magic.
No, Magic, Psylocke, Jubilee.
Yeah. And then they fight vampires during the Blood Hunt event. And then X-Men Era of Apocalypse, which is the actually only official for real epilogue, because the other ones are mostly just like this one's just a spin out of a random one shot, then Onslaught. And then these 2 were mostly just Wolverine spin outs. But this one is like the big Apocalypse is leaving for Arakko for real, and he's deciding that 12 people are going to enter into a tournament to see who can get his power and become the next Apocalypse. But like, dude, it's gonna be Richter. What are we doing? Richter was groomed, bad term, but that's what it was, from Excalibur issue 1 to the end of the Krakoan era being this like baby Apocalypse kind of, except for in the Unlimited books.
It's true.
And then they're just like he's in here. Like, sure, it could be Forge, but we see him in From the Ashes. It's not. It could be like Cable. It could be some of these guys, but like it's probably gonna be Richter or something.
Probably.
You know what I mean? Or just Apocalypse is gonna go psych.
So,
but Heir to the X-Men is being written by Steve Fox. So.
Yeah,
I definitely feel like it's going to be like a psych moment.
Yeah,
Like, it's gonna be like, hey.
You thought Apocalypse is like, nah.
But yeah, so the 4 books, Weapon X-Men, again, the spinning out as a cool 4 issue. It's serious. It's really Exiles. Helverine, big twist. Definitely pick that up if you were. It is a direct fallout from Wolverine Sabretooth War. It means
if
a
you're looking
lot.
to continue your Wolverine reading, you go Sabretooth War, Helverine, Blood Hunt. Like if you want to
Yeah.
just before the relaunch happens. And
Yes.
also because there's a lot of Deadpool nonsense going on with the
Yeah.
movie. There's also that Deadpool Wolverine weapon
Extraction,
World War III
yeah.
thing, and then Extraction, which is backup stories. But if you
Yep.
just want to read straight up Wolverine, you read Helverine, you read Blood Hunt.
Yep. And then of course Heir to Apocalypse, which is directly 35 right into this. It tells you even editors that you need to read 35 before you read this.
Yeah, it's like, yo, did you see what happened to Apocalypse's eyeballs?
Yeah.
Well, that's because like legit those Krakoan people were just like, oh yeah, we made this really utopian society right here, right now. And Apocalypse was like, nah, fam, you weren't supposed to make a utopian society. You were supposed to fucking be dominant. So now I have to go and handle shit. And
Y'all
they
were
were
supposed
like,
to win.
X-Men, y'all want to handle this? And the X-Men were like, with fucking pleasure.
Yes.
Pass.
Do you want to wrap up with the final thoughts and then we'll do the big ending for
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Just a little bit.
Yeah,
Had to throw my boy in
so
there.
before we get into the final slide, we'll do our final thoughts and then we'll talk about kind of all the books coming out next.
Mhm.
Krakoa will always be one of the divisive errors, just like Morrison was for X-Men. Not because it was bad or good. I mean, again, like Hunter said before, there is a lot of good and bad in this era. It's a mixed bag when you have a ton of different writers and art styles and stories being told. I think cohesively it starts off with a bang, but in the end, and I think it's an okay ending. I think what ends up happening is that I do believe, and I love Krakoa as a concept from start to finish. I think the problem ends up being it's a concept that's too big, and the ending was never going to be satisfying enough for everyone. It would have. How do you take a mutant nation and just wipe it off the planet? And just go.
I
But
mean,
it's like
Genosha.
right. I mean, at least with Genosha, you watched humans genocide the mutant race. But this was more of like, well, they came back and we all got out of the white hot room, and now we're here, and those that aren't important enough are all living on Krakoa in this, nebulous space, and the rest of the important mutants are still around. Now they have to live life, in general, besides those being locked up, in the prison. Um, how do you rectify that? And I get it, and that's what we're going to see from the Ashes. Um, I just always believe the concept, no matter how you did it, it was too big not to kind of fall apart. And again, I think the Dominion part is rushed a lot. But again, the series as a whole, I think, is great. The idea of a mutant nation, and it is the corruption of Xavier and the corruption of being able to achieve a dream of peace. It's the ultimate allegory for racism and bigotry. And what happens if you just put all the people on an island? They'll all be happy with themselves. No, that's not how real peace is achieved by segregation. It is to live amongst each other. Um, and learning to deal with each other as actual people. And some people just suck, and you can't change stupid. Um, and I and I think besides Xavier's own hubris and him kind of falling on the sword at the end, um, I think Krakoa will always be kind of divisive. No matter who you ask, there will be people that love it because it is a very new, interesting take on the X-Men. There are people that hate it because of whether you don't like certain stories or you didn't like the resurrection thing or you don't like the idea that there's so many X books that came out, or your favorite X-Men wasn't involved. Um, it's just it will always go down as it is an error. And it's going to be one of those things like when we talk about X-Men, we always kind of define X-Men based on who's writing it. So we go back, all right, the OG X-Men. We just say the original X-Men. And then we go Claremont error. And then we go, oh, the Morrison error. Oh, the blue and gold error. Oh, now we'll probably be saying things like oh, the Hickman run or the
I
Krakoa
say the Krakoan era.
age.
That's my
Yeah,
main.
Krakoa
Yeah.
error. You know, there that's how this book is. Regardless of how you feel, it now is the lexicon of this age. There is no there good or bad, this will be the era. Like, yeah, I know when you talk about amongst solely X-Men fans, like you're like, oh well, it's Chuck Orson's run, or like, Whedon's run, or there's other runs and stuff that we'll talk about. But like when you ask people that were collecting Marvel at this time or beforehand or after, they'll be like, oh, this was Krakoa. Yeah, this is what it is. It is one of the only runs also to exist completely solely in a trade paperback era, which you can go back and just buy trades of this
Oh yeah,
era.
they're all color coordinated and uniformed,
Yes.
except for like Juggernaut because it's technically not, but it is, and a few other those like indie one shots and spin-offs. Like Devil's Reign is not,
Yeah,
but
of
like you
course.
can get like Mr. Tony Nacho, our boy Tony
Yes.
Nacho from Comics and Chronic. You can check out his Twitter or threads at Mr. Tony Nacho. He's got all the X-Men Krakoa books posted up in a nice little color coordinated format based off the release. You can find them all there if you're looking for what I'm talking about. If you can't find Google, find Tony.
And that's the thing. Like, I do believe Krakoa. Before, and I'll end my tangent in a second.
Yeah.
And as an X-Men fan, I think it's some of the best X-Men writing. Do I think there's editorial hiccups? Of course there is. Any book that runs past 3 years at Marvel Comics has a plethora of editorial issues. Um, but I still think this is just from start to finish, it's solid. It is. Yeah, it's a landing rough. Yeah, but any landing you kind of can walk away from sometimes. You know, it seems experimental, and yeah, does the idea of a mutant nation that gets wiped away at the end just to be locked away in a white hot room that we don't care talk about anymore is dumb? Sure, it's comic books. We have people come back from the dead all the time. You know, I I do think this will be one of the standout editions of the X-Men history going forward. So yeah, I definitely can't wait to see what's going on, and we'll talk about that stuff next. Justin, what are your final thoughts on Krakoa before we talk about the new stuff?
It's very interesting because I really disagree. like, in reading everything that I've read, I feel like this tried to be something, and there's some really good comment or some really good concepts in the Krakoan age. But I feel like overall, I don't think it's as impactful as something like House of M or as something as like the Genoshan massacre, or as something as like I feel like there were a lot of really interesting things that came out of Krakoa, and I feel like the Moira engine was like her development of powers and the whole concept with her was something that was really really interesting. I think the exploration of like how current events sort of manufactured a potential future was really really interesting, but I feel like it's good for the here and now. I feel like a decade later, I don't think we're going to be talking about this as like being as impactful as you say that it really is to the lexicon. Um, Additionally, I feel like it could have been more impactful if the Society of Krakoa didn't read as if it was just going to be a blueprint for an event. And I feel like that was the major downfall for me for Krakoa is that I don't really get anything from the society with the exception of these are things that are going to lead you to the inevitability of like the revelation of Sinister or the sins of Sinister and how that whole thing works out, or how like all of these timelines worked out, or even the Dominion storyline working out. Like I think they were really solid ideas that collectively together seem really awesome, but I don't think that it made so much of an impact on me where I was like, wow, this really changes how I look at like X-Men Society, Mutant Society, anything like that. Whereas like when I walked away from House of M, I was kind of just like, holy crap, what are they gonna do? Like
Fair.
that was a very impactful event. And I feel like, even now you could really still talk about House of M, despite the fact that like Mutandom is all but like retconned House of M out of existence.
True.
It still was like a major turning point for the X-Men because it led to so many different things, like, sort of like them leaving Westchester, Utopia, Hope, that like so many things spurn out of just that one event. Where I mean, maybe in the future, depending on like where storylines go from this, I might see it differently. But right now, reading it up until the end, I was kind of just like, oh, okay, that was neat.
That's fair. That's fair. Hunt, and again, it's opinion, so I'm not gonna. There's no for anyone that wants to argue who's right. There is no right. It's opinions, people's
Well,
comics.
like
Mhm.
it's like Civil War. Like
Yeah,
either you're on Cap's side or you're on Iron Man's side. Both had valid points, and like I can understand where you're coming from on why Krakoa was so great, and I just happen to disagree.
yeah, of course. And Hunter, any final thoughts before we get into From the Ashes?
No, not necessarily. I feel like I did my little headpiece right
Spiel before.
beforehand with kind of like how I feel about the whole era. I liked some stuff, I hated other stuff. Some books fit, some books didn't. A lot of stuff just, some editorial stuff, some mixing of the minds, and some just jarbled nonsense sometimes. It's just I like that you guys are divisive on this. I like that James, even though he doesn't like every book, thoroughly enjoys this era. And I like that Justin, even though he doesn't enjoy that many books, also enjoys the ones he read, but hates a lot of the other stuff. I like that aspect of like, we have two sides of the same coin, essentially. You like X-Men, but some things rubbed you the wrong way, some things
Yeah.
rubbed you the other way. Like it's
It's X-Men.
interesting to see that you guys like can be like, in my opinion, the definitive X-Men fans, and also have such divided opinions on a 5-year stint that the X-Men didn't really have prior to this. Ever since the Marvel Now era, X-Men's been bouncing around between what are we doing, and that's really because Disney was holding a grudge and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So this was the first official like Disney collaboration, essentially. If you're thinking about like when they've acquired all the rights, everything's back to them. They're working on the MCU stuff. But now that Disney, not that they control Marvel, comics, but they definitely have their sway.
Oh yeah,
So them going, all right, go full, make X-Men something crazy. That's why they're all uniform. That's why every X-Men that is a main character gets shuffled around into every single book throughout the entire era. I feel like some of these stories will be important and some of them will not. Like, I feel like Exterminators, no one's going to talk about unless Dazzler shows. Like, there's a Dazzler book coming out, but like if Dazzler shows up and goes, "Hey, remember this?" Some writers just aren't going to reference other things, and some of these stories, like Lethal Legion, maybe will just like fade into existence because like it's a Wolfsbane story, but do we care about Wolfsbane? It's like it really just depends on who is editing and who is writing the next bit. And I feel like going forward with From the Ashes, having, I mean, Jed McKay doing God's work at Marvel, doing everything.
Yeah.
And then kind of heading another era of X-Men after everything that went down and almost having no returning creators, which is very interesting.
Yes.
Everybody that's coming in these titles, I think, James, you have more of the list.
I have the
Most of them haven't written X-Men. And I think that's an interesting kind of pivot from that Marvel's doing. Like, is it because like we had their stories, they have nothing else to pitch, they got jaded and they all left? Half the X team is over at DC right now.
Yeah, it is.
Except for like Jerry Duggan, and I think he's going over soon. I think his
maybe.
contract is up soon. I don't know. Percy just re-upped his.
Yeah.
So
guys, we're going to jump into the new era of X-Men coming out actually starting next week. It's already kind of soft started. We talked about Era of Apocalypse, which is written by C. Fox and art by Nico
and the
Diaz.
Unlimited books have already started with Cyclops and Jean kind of like
I will get to all that. You have officially starting off in Free Comic Book Day 2024, which was the Blood Hunt and X-Men #1 crossover issue, which was written by Gail Simone and David Marquez. It was the trailer just turned into a comic book, kind of talking about all the characters. Gail Simone will be writing Uncanny X-Men. I'm actually going to go in release order because it's a little bit easier. But the 3 flagship books are going to be Uncanny X-Men, written by Gail Simone and art by David Marquez, which includes the team of Gambit, Jubilee, Nightcrawler, Rogue, and Logan, as Gambit and Rogue live and do fun stuff in Louisiana.
Very strong X-Men team right here.
It's a very classic. It's a very classic '90s X-Men team where the team has to then kind of figure out what's going on with the mutants and try to live life amongst humans. Post Krakoa, as mutants are once again hunted and feared by society. You have the Exceptional X-Men, written by Eve Ewing and art by Carmen Carreno. That team is Kitty Pryde, who's living in Chicago, who's given up a life of an X-Man to be a bartender and barista, under the watchful eye while being watched on by Emma Frost, the White Queen. They stumble
They're
upon
homies now.
kind of. They stumble upon new mutants. The first 3 you'll meet are Axo, Bronze, and Melee. And what it's going to mean to train a new team of mutants in this new era. And you have X-Men, written by Jed McKay and art by Ryan Stegman. The team consists of Beast, which Beast we're assuming the good one from the X-Force era. Cyclops, Juggernaut, Kid Omega, Psylocke, Quanon. Magic, Magneto, and Temper, formerly known as Oye. Magneto has been aged up, and now he's in the wheelchair. And the X-Men are located in the Alaska base, originally seen in Avengers, which was Jed McKay book, a former Orchid space that they have taken over and retrofitted to train and live as they hunt down and deal with mutant crimes and mutant problems around the world. The rest of the From the Ashes era will continue as such. Originally starting off with X-Men Volume 7, #1, coming out next week, July 10th, followed by Phoenix, written by Stephanie Phillips, and art by Alyssa Macrillo, and that will be July 17th. Phoenix is about Jean Grey taking her rightful cosmic place amongst the stars. With the new current designs from the Jonathan Hickman book, The Gods miniseries, you have NYX, written by Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing with Francisco Morieto, with art. That's going to be July 27th. And the initial lineup, which is Noel, Miss Marvel, Prodigy, Sophie Cuckoo, and Wolverine Laura Kidney, as they live and do young adult stuff in Manhattan.
It's been recently solicited that they are going to be fighting a villain called the Krakoan. Looks like Xavier and Magneto had a weird Orion baby, so we'll see what that turns into.
Yes. That is also that lineup will be rotating according to Jackson and Kelly.
Hive mind.
Yes, you have X Force written by Jeffrey Thorne, and art by Marcus Two, which is Betsy Braddock, Forge, Rachel Summers, Sage, Surge, and a new character called Tank. With the sixth position as rotating as Forge takes the leadership position in X Force as he has visions for the future. In order to stop mutant crimes, the sixth rotating chair will be different characters that will help them on various missions in each arc, of course, opening up with Deadpool. You have Avengers issue 17 and 18, written by Jed McKay and art by Valerio Schiti. Um, Storm is joining the Avengers. That's
Hell
what it
yeah.
is. Storm's joining the Avengers.
Hell
Um,
yeah.
Yeah, post Blood Hunt.
yes. You have X Factor, written by Mark Russell and art by Bob Quinn, which X Factor is led by Angel, with Celia Reyes, Feral, Frenzy, Havoc, Pyro, and a new character called Cyber. Angel, the government has decided to make their own mutant team in the fallout from Orcus to kind of show that mutants can and will live amongst humanity, and can be quote unquote good mutants. It's very much a very 90s take on the X-Men post extinction agenda,
Mhm.
led by Angel as he's the pretty mutant and the one with money, and Havoc is on his redemption tour post Dark X-Men, and also Angel post Dark X-Men. You have Storm, written by Morane Ayoidale and Lucas Warner on art. Storm is doing Storm stuff. We don't know much about the series just yet, but she will be taking place between her Avengers book and that miniseries, kind of finding a place after Arakko has fallen and Magneto being on the X-Men. She has no place to go, but now what she will do, there's a lot of rumors that she'll be a diplomat and maybe running for president. That's been the biggest rumor of that series.
Mm.
Ooh.
We have three miniseries. First one being Dazzler, which will be a four issue miniseries with Jason Liu and Rafael Laureano, with a special feature every issue being a soundtrack, a custom made song for the book. Dazzler goes on her world tour with um, Dazzler, Domino being her security, Strong Guy being her roadie, Shark Girl being her social media manager, Wind Dancer being her social media manager, Shark Girl, I forgot what she was doing, and Multiple Man being her roadie. Dazzler's going on a world tour, guys, doing Dazzler fun stuff. She's just Taylor Swift. And
Hell
two newly announced series, Sentinels, a 5 issue miniseries, written by Alex Panakel and art by Justin Mason, with characters Drumfire, Lockstep, Sawtooth, and Void. They are all characters that have been affected by major Marvel events, Death of Doctor Strange, Onslaught, um, Krakoa, a bunch of other various Marvel properties, and they are now put together as a new Sentinel unit that will police mutants
Yeah, but
around
it's
the
not
world.
what you think.
Yes, that's
Pat
what they
Patel
said.
was like, "It's not what you think. We swear. Read it, please."
Yes. And then you have the Mystique series,
Fuck you.
also a 5 issue miniseries written by Declan Shalvey, and drawn by Declan Shalvey. Mystique is now an assassin again with a new costume as she's being hunted down by Nick Fury. Um, and while she does spy fun nonsense, so it's a cool spy thriller. Um, and then finally, also written by Alex Paklandi, is the X Men from the Ashes digital series from Marvel Unlimited. The first story arc being Jean and Scott's honeymoon post Krakoa, also cementing Tom Brevoort's no thruples exist in Krakoa
Boo.
line, and the next arc being Beast. These all will start coming out as of next week. So that's your reading list, guys. And
Yeah, I
I will
started
wrap.
reading the Unlimited book. It's pretty good so far. Cyclops goes a little crazy. He's under the pressure of getting ready for this new team.
Oh yeah,
And it's
it's
showing.
gonna be good. And guys, Justin, thank you for coming on and spending the last 6.5 hours total
Yeah.
talking about X-Men with us and getting all our listeners up to date for Krakoa and into From the Ashes. Justin, where can our listeners and viewers, I guess, find you?
at Gambler88. I was just noticing that both of you have your handles in your name.
Mm-hmm.
Should have thought of that. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's.
We'll put you in the description somewhere.
Yes.
And thank you guys for having me. It's been a
You're welcome.
fun 6.5 hours chatting about X-Men.
It's been a fun 2 Mondays.
Yes. Um. Again, you guys can listen to both episodes in whatever order you want. All the breakdowns are
I
there.
mean,
And guys,
preferably 1 to 2, but yeah,
yeah.
But
And
you know
guys,
what? Be a free spirit.
yeah.
exactly. Maybe check this
Guys,
out.
yeah. So, guys, thanks for listening. You can head over to our website, andrewscomics.com, check out this week's previews and new releases. Follow us on Instagram at Andrews_Comics, the podcast Instagram at Andrews Amazing Podcast, and on Twitter/X at Andrews Amazing for up to date news. It's just stuff we don't make the show. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, share with a friend. Guys, go buy these trades. They're almost all completely out. And guys, support your local comic shop and have a nice day for this very long X-Men listen.
Peace.
Peace.
Ah.